From Stage 21 at Universal Studios at Universal Orlando Resort, it's total non-stop action wrestling impact.
Okay, everybody, episode 139. Woo, we're getting TNA in more ways than one. And no, I'm not talking about Toni Storm flailing on the way to the ring in a casino. God, that looks stupid live. TNA wrestling is back. Nostalgia's very scary, guys. It's terrifying. Can't believe we got to do this again. Again, we have to do it. But I'm JD. This is the Red Leaf Retrocast, talking about modern wrestling with the ending of WCW in the year 2000. My God. Fun episode today. I got myself an old-fashioned poured here. That is wonderful. This is my, third attempt recording this thing. Mike has given me issues. It's fucking cold outside. It's like 29 degrees all of a sudden. So I got this nice stiff drink. And again, no, I'm not talking about Toni Storm flailing onto the ring, pulling oranges out of her ass, and then biting it graphically on a table. All non-stop action wrestling is upon us. More on that later, I suppose. We got Rickee Block later in the show, where she talks about Lucha Libre and laughs. I talk about my trip to Collision. AEW Talk is kind of a hodgepodge of random shit we've been going through. And then, we do a little New Japan. I guess that's kind of all over the place, too. It's, let's see, we talk about some Strong. We talk about Royal Quest 3, which happened just before we recorded in the last episode. I mentioned WCW 2000 at the end. That is the go-home show for Super Brawl 2000. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair on 3 days' notice. Gets booked. Relatable to today? Maybe. Ratings ploys? Russo booking? Who knows? But we do talk a while on PWI Women's 250 controversial list. Came out this year. We really dive into that a little bit. Talk about it a bit differently than the last few years. It's one of my favorite things to discuss is, lists, and that list in particular. It's a lot of fun. What is going on the Patreon, you may ask? Well, before I get there, there is a special episode I released on all the feeds. Patreon, All Japan Women Destiny, this feed that you're listening to right now. Where it's almost 3 hours of audio with the amazing guys at One Nation Radio, Rich and James. Phenomenal dudes to come on short notice and discuss the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame audio for the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame 2023. We're going into a lot of detail over topics that we're interested in, some of which include Little June Byers talk, Beauty Pair, Mako Satomura comes up. Obviously, the women's wrestling. This is a women's wrestling loving podcast. Always has been. We go into the North American one in particular because that's what they're strongest at, with CM Punk, a little bit of Edge, Roman Reigns, and we go into the Young Bucks being kind of first ballot Hall of Famers and the like. I talk briefly about the rest of the world in Mexico. Maybe you guys aren't familiar with Otto Vons. That was the guy that I researched the most, ended up researching the most, namely because guys like the Young Bucks and Beauty Pair to me are just slam dunks. I don't need to do much on them, but I have done an article with Alex from Stardom Quest, which you will hear him later on the All Japan Women's section. It's Classics episode 100, Big Egg Wrestling. There you go. Yeah, we made it to the Dome finally. So yeah, a lot coming up. One Nation Radio, Hall of Fame audio on all the feeds, almost 3 hours. Alex and I come on to do kind of a celebration that I've done 100 episodes of All Japan Women. And with Hall of Fame season coming up, talk a lot about Akira Hokuto and her mark on the industry in kind of her brief period of time being on top in the way she was. And then naturally, now I'm back to the Patreon here, Stardom Tag League. I will not be going over Stardom Tag League on this show. That has been decided to be a Patreon exclusive show because the Stardom Tag League this year has quite the, I guess, focal point of injuries and disasters and just how much this roster is exhausted. It's like Game 7 and Series 3 of the conference finals, NHL playoffs, where dudes are just going down left and right. The hustle just can't be there anymore. And they're trying to rest up best they can, win a series in game, while also trying to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And the last team standing is essentially the winner. I love NHL playoffs because it's truly a grind of grinds, But that's Stardom Tag League. The first episode is out over the first couple nights, and those will be a kind of combined effort of nights there. Monthly Pure J. Good episode coming up. Ice Lore is invading Pure J. Can't wait to talk about that on the Patreon with JPQ. Joshi 2010s. Each and every month, 2 episodes. Just did Stardom Osaka Championship Night from 2012. The Arrival of Alpha Female. There you go. And then near the end of every month is LLPW. Just did a big episode involving 95 and this interesting angle they're putting through with Mickey Honda. So I love all the stuff I get to do for the Patreon, and for all the subscribers out there and listeners that really want to dive into this niche of a niche of a niche of Joshi wrestling history and women's wrestling history. I have some ideas thrown out there. I'm definitely going to take all of my Hall of Fame pieces, such as Alex and I's piece on the beauty pair, Rossi Ogawa, my piece on Meiko Satomura. I'm going to pull those that I have written and throw them on the Patreon just so they're all kind of in one place. And they will also be for free access because, well, they're on voicesofwrestling.com, so you can easily search them. But for preservation purposes, I'm going to put it on there. Whew. Okay. Joshi Wrestling. Let me play a drop, and we can get into it. Here we go. Okay, change of plans. I gotta play this now. And no, I will not be talking about that horrendous that Halloween show that Stardom put out. Horrendous as it was. Look, anybody who gives a shit about it and would have fun already saw the GIFs and memes that went off online, because that's all those shows are for. Garbage. It's absolute trash. I hate it. Stardom and Showcase can burn. I never want to see those shows. Yeah, they got like 1,100 people. Whoop-de-doo. I'm not impressed personally. No, they did not give any matches away, but guess what? I don't care, because they aren't matches I want to see anyways. And they're not stipulated. Anyways, whatever. Played Nagisa Nozaki's music. I'm a big fan. I'm very much looking forward to her coming back to wrestling on the Joshi 2010s, because she was a very hot prospect before unfortunate circumstances led to her kind of tenure away. But she announced, in the ring on the latest Wave show, that her contract expired on the end of October, and on November 1st, she is a free agent and says she's going freelance once she heals back from injuries. So her knees are exploded, much like Jungle Kiona's, unfortunately. Who knows when we'll see both of those wrestlers again, if ever. Nozaki claims that she is going to make a return to wrestling. On one hand, I'm excited at the prospect that she's finally out of Wave. And I don't think this hurts Wave at all. Any mark and negative aspect on the promotion was probably already felt, well over a year ago. So at this point, her coming back or not, I don't think helps or hurts the promotion in any way. So there's that aspect. I really like, because I posed this question like maybe 2 years ago, where I go, okay, Nozaki's kind of done all she can in a promotion like Wave, 2-time champion, tag champions, etc. You get the idea. What if she would sign with someone like a Stardom, where no, maybe she won't ever make a true, she won't be a true main eventer like the Mayu, Julia, Utamis of the world, but if she can settle into a position like a Maika, Hazuki, then I think that would be very beneficial, and with the roster in the state that it is, I think that's a great place for her. Do I have any interest in her possibly showing up in Sukeban, as Sari is rumored to be, in deep contract negotiations? No, I have no interest in that. After seeing Sukeban's first show, I have no interest in that. It's goofy nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Especially with what the angle that they're doing is. And as we've seen from like Maya Yukihi, the prospect of a freelance run in this current state of Joshi is dire. You might get some matches against Zones and Chi-Chi, maybe, and you're like, okay, I can watch that once or twice, but then what are we getting out of it right now? It's not a good scene to go into being a freelancer. The real only, I guess, other prospect would be somehow another company picks her up, pays her money, and pushes her as a main eventer, if it's not Stardom. And who knows, maybe she can stay healthy, the knees are good. I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers, and if let's just hypothetically put out the unlikely that TJPW snatches her up, right? Make her a main eventer immediately. That promotion is so stale right now, and we'll get to that in a second here. But I guess we'll see when Nozaki comes back. At this point, she might as well wait till like February 2024, or hell, show up on one of those. You know what? Show up at the Osaka Stardom show, or wait till the Tokyo Dome City Hall show that they're running in 2024 there. And I am really kicking myself that I am not going to visit Japan for December this year. Money just got tight with the house. Excuses, no one cares. But hey, Kitsune Pro Wrestling. My boy Eric over at Joshi Pod. We did the interview with him over on the podcast feeds here. Go listen to that, talking about his first show. Yeah, they had some growing pains for the first show. Tough delay for various reasons. There was a lot of controversy on the line about whether pay was an issue and that everyone got paid. And I was assured personally that everyone got paid. There was no issue with any of that. And honestly, if there was, we would have heard about it from the wrestlers themselves. They are usually not afraid to speak their minds on that aspect when they get screwed over by a promotion. Shout out CCW for that one. So he talked to me about a lot of lessons learned. That's his business to tell you guys. But I think the biggest issue to tackle people not going to the show is the broadcast feed. And IWTV really made sure to give us an authentic Joshi Nico Pro experience, which was no good. But in terms of how the show went live, I got a lot of good feedback from people that were there live. I even posed the question, just particularly to a few people who also went to the Spark West show. And there was also one guy who went to all three, the Sukeban, Spark, and this show, Kitsune. And Kitsune got the best response out of the people I asked. Eric, that is, his goal was to make this more or less an all-star show, kind of fight through a lot of the political aspects of booking that, we all got to learn firsthand at some point, right? If we're going to do something like this. Acting like I've booked anything, but anyways. And he's got a business plan, he assured me, and I'm excited to see what the prospects of his future are with Kitsune Pro Wrestling. Can he eventually get to the point of doing a monthly show or will it be a quarterly produce show? Who knows? That's for him to figure out, right? And then there's TJPW and Marvelous. They're gunning for the West. TJPW and particularly Miyu Yamashita are heading to MLW in some partnership along with various other TJPW wrestlers going to Prestige, West Coast Pro, and whatnot. Now I gotta ask, was the title switched to Miyu just for this purpose? Cyberfight and Takagi and these guys, they are very adamant about this arbitrary Western expansion, but only through their streaming service, which is odd when, particularly for TJPW, their ticket sales have not been good this year. Excuse me. Marvelous West is happening. Did mention that, but look, Risa Serra's making her GCW debut. There's a lot of movement west, and this is all happening because I believe, and there's a lot of factual statistics out there, because the state of the Joshi scene in Japan and wrestling in general in Japan right now is struggling, and it's struggling bad. And instead of trying to address why that is domestically and trying to drum up buzz interest and trying to make adjustments, a lot of them think they can all just kind of come to the West, get them on board, and just run shows, and that'll be good enough. Maybe that is good enough for some people, but it's not the root cause of what's happening there. So now I want to transition into a piece and segment that I'm very excited to do, and I hope to make this a regular thing going forward, and at least one match per show will be covered. So I'm about to play a drop here, and then I can get into this next segment. Here we go.
Una gran peleadora, estoy bien entrenada. Desde pequeña soy aficionada. En la lucha libre soy campeón actual. Me dicen la lluvia lista para pelear. Esto lo llevo en la sangre, mi padre es sangre chicana. Y poco a poco le fui metiendo más ganas. Me siento orgullosa de lo que he logrado. La pequeña tentación, mi público me ha apoyado. Por hobby entrenando.
Damn, that shit goes hard. I love it. The Juvia intro music there. Daughter of Sangre Chicana. Love it. Okay, so I put out the question there to my man Omega, listener podcast. Like to think we're friends these days. He's been into the Lucha Joshi, much like myself, and it's like I've taken no notes over Mexican wrestling all year long. I've been keeping up with CMLL, but in particular, since March, when Dark Silhouette, Sugit, Marcella, there was another person. Dallas, that was more a year ago, but Dallas has left and jumped to AAA. But what's happened is because those much older veterans and people on top are gone, people like Jarochita, Vaquer, Juvia, and more have been able to really rise to the occasion and get booked, and it's really invigorated and drawn up a lot of interest in particularly the CMLL women's division. Okay, in AAA, you still got Los Toxicos with Hydra, Flammer, who's the champion. They still got that thing going on over there, but in CMLL in particular, this is where the interest is, and you can see the interest online growing. And I wrote a little bit about the women's division in Mexico and the two major companies kind of ramping up and to keep out for it. And lo and behold, this year, at least in CMLL, they've really taken advantage of it. And Stephanie Vaquer coming over to the States and wrestling Mercedes, and now she's challenged Mayu Iwatani. It's interesting. You got them showing up on New Japan Strong, like Juvia and Zuxis. I'm really interested, and that's why this is going to be a recurring segment. Each and every show now is at the very least talking about a match, just to stay with it. And you're listening to a women's wrestling podcast, and I'm gonna talk about women's wrestling. And let's be honest, we're starving for good women's wrestling when a lot of women's wrestling fans are turning to NXT on that horrid show, and that's mostly Cat, come on. Get out of here. Shoo. Come on, you already messed up two of my audio pieces. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Because NXT has new, fresh talent that they're pushing. That's where the interest is. And you got Tiffany Stratton there. You got, well, she's the only one I care about currently. But there's a lot of talent. So, I put out the word to Omega. I was like, hey, give me your top 5 matches that I should check out immediately. And then I end up watching about like 15, 20 CMLL women's matches. And I gotta say, his top 5 list, maybe there's the Stephanie Vaquer Lightning match you can throw in there, but these 5 are, at the very least, a great representation of how to get into this division, okay? So, number 5 is La Catalina Vaquer Zuxis against Las Chicas Indomitables, Jaratita, Juvia, and Sanely. 2 out of 3 falls tag. It was from June 18th. And this is where we see Juvia and Jaratita pull off some impressive, very impressive moves in the ring. You know, Vaquera is very, very fit, very strong. She got them arms. Does a double knees to the corner on the 3rd fall and pins Juvia. Number 4 is a Cybernetico match for a qualifying to the Mexican National Women's title that was created. And this is the other thing. CMLL is creating women's titles. They may not defend them very much, but they're using these things to really put over who they want to push and be stars. Okay? So think of this Cybernetico match, if you're not familiar with it, as a battle royal where half the field gets eliminated. Then it goes to 2 teams kind of, I don't know, I guess arbitrarily put on each side. Then it's an elimination tag match. And then when you get down to a final 2, those 2 will face off in a future match for, well, in this case, the National Women's title. So, host of names here. It came down to a final 3 of Juvia, Reina Isis, and Jaratita. And we get a sort of hodgepodge, can they coexist thing between Juvia and Jaratita. And this leads, which is funny because Isis is the Rudo, the heel in this, while Indomitables here are the baby faces. But because it's 2-on-1, and prior to this, Isis went on this roll where she eliminates like 3 people in a row, and the crowd's going nuts for her because she gets this push, and she's very much not as good as many of these names I've talked about from CMLL, but she's beautiful. She was in that mask match last year's anniversary show, which Jaratita took her mask, and boy, you can see why. She is very pretty, right? She's got a lot going on in the aesthetics department for wrestling, of course. But anyways, she ends up eliminating Jaratita. So we get the Juvia Isis match later. So the Cybernetico match I really liked. It really kept my eyes glued to the screen. Happened on July 7th. And then on July 14th was the singles match between Juvia and Isis. Not the greatest and smoothest singles match, but it's one of those where I'm going to pull like a typical wrestling match description of they tried really hard, they worked really hard, and they did, and they put a lot of effort, and it is appreciated, right? That's code for saying, well, this match wasn't good, but I enjoyed it. And that's kind of what that's what I got here. Juvia really had to hold back a lot to try to make Isis look as good as possible because Isis won this match. So she's the first ever National Women's Champion. And Juvia is just spamming drop kicks like she's Manami Toyota out there. I mean, she's just got that, like, extension of the legs that looks like she's John Wooey New all day, right? So, really liked what Juvia brought in this match. And Isis going for her little bow and arrow rack. She struggled to get Hoovy up for this thing and finally locks it in. The ref's like, okay, now that you got it in, I can call for the bell. Number 2, I believe I've talked about this match before on the podcast. It is from the anniversary show. It is for the women's tag titles. Surprisingly, Vakir and Zeuxis win this match over Chicas Indomitables. That's Juvia and Drautita. So you see repeated names throughout this. Okay? Excellent match where they just go into a deluge of hitting big moves. I believe there's a spot, if I remember correctly, that Drautita and Zeuxis did a Spanish fly off the apron to the floor. They had no issue with pulling out all the stops for this on the big show. So that's number 2. And number 1, and I think by far the best women's match that I've seen. If you're out there and you've seen a better women's match in Mexico than this one, let me know, because I'll fucking watch it immediately. This is from September 29th, so very recent. CMLL World Women's Title Defense of Stephanie Vakir against La Catalina, the 22, 23-year-old ex-NXT. She got there for a few years when she was in her teens. Released her, and Catalina's been in this promotion since about March. She had a brief indie run in between NXT and here, and she's vastly improved. Like, it's incredible. There's no bigger moment in this match where you just go, that's her, I like her, we're going to keep an eye on her, is when Catalina hits like a big meteora or something on the ramp to Vakir, and she sticks her tongue out. She's got this cocky look to her. The crowd's booing her, which is also funny because Vakir is a heel, the Rudo, and the roles flipped in this, and Catalina looked great. I went a full 3 on this match. Now, star ratings wise, it's like a 3.5 area, but something clicks with this where you go, this is a good match. It's not a high star rating type match, but goddammit, I highly recommend it. It's that kind of, it's a rarity, but they do exist. Okay, so September 29th, Vakir Catalina, go check that out. Fucking love it. And I'm very much looking forward to a lot of what CMLL has to offer. Again, this will be a repeated segment every episode now with at least one match, and then I can go, if it's one match, I'll go into a lot of detail on it. If it's like this, where I just have a bunch of them, then I'm going to kind of steamroll through it a little bit, but hopefully this gets you interested in this division, and I'm extremely excited to see what prospects this holds. Okay. Whew. It's time.
I say exactly what's on my mind in a way that you can hear me. It's the same way every day and night. We gotta make a change. Ozaki's waiting for the next time.
All right, Ozaki was indeed waiting for the next time to bury Mio Momono, because she certainly did at this Burning Destiny show. Over 1,500 allegedly in attendance for Oz Academy, making it the largest non-Stardom Joshi attendance of the year. So good on them. I'd estimate it probably in the 1,200 range, but regardless, we're going with their numbers. And look, if we're going by this, Oz Academy has pop numbers throughout their history. They have, they have Jaguar Yokota, they have Chigusa Nagayo in a big match here, at least in terms of their promotion. They have their audience, okay? And with this, it kind of brings me up to another point of, I'm just saying it, the only reason why TJPW has a higher overall attendance than Oz Academy this year is because TJPW runs more. Oz Academy is a produce show. They run there 2-3 times a month, maybe. But they consistently pop their numbers that they do. And when you got, you're closing in on 10,000 people attendance at the end of the year, and you got the highest show that's not from Stardom, I'm declaring you the number 2 promotion in this industry right now. Sorry, TJPW, but when you're not able to crack 700 in attendance at Korakuen with your roster and your backing and your, I guess, foothold, then we got an issue. Not much to talk about on this entire show. It's an Oz Academy show. It's the only match worth discussing, really, is the Ozaki against Team Marvelous deathmatch deal that they did. But in the undercard, we had a Hanazono match. We had a tag. In the semi-main, we had the three-way, which is just everyone kind of in house show mode. Chihiro and you win that match because, of course, they do. And zones look good. I do like watching zones. Main event was another Akino snooze fest, where she faced off against Takumi Aroha, in which they botched 3 moves going into the ending stretch there, including the Hurricane Rana spot. Bummer. Akino just... time waits for no person, right? And it's just simply Akino can't move like she used to, and it shows. And that's okay. Should she be champion? Well, in Oz Academy, I guess it makes sense. But she hits the mat a lot these days, guys. They're doing limb work and leg work galore. I said it last year when that Mayuki match happened, and it was one of the worst title matches in Joshi of that year. It was just that boring. And this was a little better because they were able to hone in on at least Aroha hitting a bunch of dragon screws, but no good. So Ozaki and Kekaru and Sariano against Chigusa, Tomoko Watanabe, and Mio Momono. It's an elimination match. Goes on for over 30 minutes. Well, just over 30 minutes. And what happens is Tomoko gets the shit kicked out of her. Kekaru bleeds horribly with the blade job. She's the first eliminated. Sariano gets the can you coexist moment. She's out. All while in between all that, they're just nailing Tomoko with chairs, and Chigusa and Mio Momono are trying to push her out of the way, but the elimination of Tomoko doesn't happen until later, so I guess there's a story there. But really, it's just a bad walk and brawl because, well, Chigusa and Ozaki can't really walk or brawl like they used to. So, I mean, there's a spot in the early stages of this where Ozaki's got the title, the Gaia title that she has, and she tries to hit Chigusa with it, misses her, goes over her head, and then Chigusa sells this like she just got busted open. So, a lot of bad spots. A lot of bad spots like that. A lot of just hitting each other with shit. Did not enjoy it. And then there was one spot that got a big gif online going around. That's when Chigusa and Tomoko pull 2 tables out of the way to reveal a diving Mio Momono onto Ozaki-gun. That was cool. Well, we end up with Ozaki by herself against all of Team Marvelous. And you're just like, okay, they're going to do quick work of her. Maybe she'll get a pin or 2. And it'll come down, surely, to Mio Momono against Ozaki. And maybe she gets her big revenge win back because she went over to Marvelous and took the title and beat that poor girl into the ground. No. In fact, Ozaki needed almost no help. She used her chain, as was legal. She pins Tomoko in short fashion, and then she proceeds to beat the shit out of Mio Momono. Holy crap. It was so one-sided, all while Chigusa's just taking a powder, sitting ringside, watching her team just take a beating because, well, she doesn't got it anymore. Momono goes through a table. She's bleeding. Ozaki puts her into the ground, not once, twice, but 3 times. And when those shoulders hit the mat and get counted for 3, camera goes to Chigusa, and she's just like, "What is this? I have to now wrestle." And they wrestled for 12 and a half minutes to end this match. So we were approaching half the match was Chigusa against Mayumi Ozaki, and Ozaki was really trying out there. Chigusa certainly she was trying to walk, and it ends with Police, aka SWAT. Ozaki has leveled up her Pokemon after all this time, and he gets a huge pop because why would this company make sense? And the longtime biggest babyface ever in women's wrestling history is pinned, and Ozaki stands on the title with a bunch of sponsors. I love watching my babyfaces lose big-time storylines. Ah, man, it's so great. I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about another one. I'm sure Mio Momono will bounce back any day now. Marvelous. Big fat losers against Oz Academy. Hey, there's a lot of Yankees. There's a lot of non-Yankees fans that love seeing the Yankees lose. Well, Oz Academy sure feels like the Yankees, and they're winning. Let's see. I discussed Stardom poor attendance in Tag League on the Patreon. I will at least say the Osaka pay-per-view coming up looks hot. It looks great. You got the Moneyball match. Shout out my Sakurai. Got your bribe money. Mirai against Sariano. There's Suzu and Tam. Although there is some speculation that Tam's knee is so fucked she might have to vacate the title prior to this. I really hope that's not true and she's working us. But I keep saying, don't be shocked if we get a Suzu title change here. And this was before the injury I was saying this. Go check it out. I have said it. But this is the best 1-2 punch Stardom's had in a long time on pay-per-view. I'm quite excited. I caught up with the Korakuen from October 1st. Yes, I missed it. I finally got around to it. Azumi Mayu was pretty damn good. I love the counter double like feet to the face to Azumi. That was rad. The Julia Ami Sourei strong title match was pretty okay. They got it at the end, but there's moments where Ami just doesn't know what the hell's going on. Julie's trying to get her for a Northern Lights suplex, just very basic, and she just, she wasn't flipping over, brother. So there's all that. Let me get my final Joshi drop here, and I could probably pound through TJPW and bury them in less than 6 minutes. So here we go. All right, TJPW, All Rise, attendance of 686. Of course, it's only one less than the horrid Stardom Korakuen that people made fun of. Only 29 people more than last year with all the other foreigners challenging. That was the show with Miyu defeating Millie McKenzie for the Eve title. Yuka Sakazaki defeating Billy Starks, retain her title. And a little more perspective is 2021, they got 437 with the heavy restrictions, headlined by Hikari defeating Miyu Watanabe in the big main event Princess Tag title match of Magi Rabi against 1 to Million, along with the ridiculous. It was the non-draw booking that saw Arai tap out with a minute left to Rika Tatsumi. So that was that show. As I hope I don't forget to timestamp this thing, but anyways. This show was very much your standard TJPW show that just happened to be at Korakuen. It did have some foreigners coming in for the titles, God knows why, but look, they're just not pushing anybody on their roster other than who they think could expand to the West. They're really into the Leaving tour, and this was Yuka's first match back in TJPW, basically half the year. Saki Kai's retiring. This is their last TJPW match. And then we have a Miyu Yamashita title match, and they couldn't draw 700 people plus. It's not good. Not good signs. Did I enjoy the tag title match? I did. Juri Nagano still looks very green. She still has a ways to go, but the improvement of Moka Miyamoto is very much noted. Free Wi-Fi didn't beat anybody to get to the titles. They should have just done the vacated title match for this one and had Yuka and Mizuki just lose to Free Wi-Fi. Anyways, I think that would have been more interesting, but that's an opinion on what they should have booked. What they did book on this show was A lot of the rookies, they're doing their NXT breakout tournament in the undercard. Shout out Wakana. I'm pulling for you, girl. They had Ryo Mizunami and Yuki Aino doing good tag things, but again, are we going to do anything with Ryo Mizunami in this promotion? All right. Saki Akai is retiring. This is her last match in TJPW. The long storyline involving Yuki Arai and being the trainee of Saki Akai, Saki Akai being the mentor, whatever way you want to phrase this. Saki Akai just beats this girl. I don't think it was as one-sided and dominant as I've seen some people talk about on the line, but in terms of Yuki Arai getting like some near falls that were convincing, they didn't happen. Saki Akai just comes out, beats this woman in, 13 minutes or whatever it was, and pins her clean. Yuki Arai stumbles. They say some things post-match. They move on. And here I am just going, the lanky bitch is retiring, Coda! What are you doing? I love my baby faces losing and never winning. I love those stories. All of wrestling is always built on that. No, Yuki Arai is not the greatest wrestler. She's not, in terms of TJPW, she's very much passable and quite popular. Otherwise, they wouldn't book Nagoya shows around this girl. And she never wins anything big. Yeah, they had their little tag title run, but hey, ask yourself, was it any good? It wasn't. It wasn't. I'll answer that for you. And I did. So Yuki Arai loses. Still no one's been put over strongly in this promotion in the last, 4 years? And when they, I'll put it this way. When they finally did do something interesting and shocking in Rika Tatsumi winning the title, they pulled the rug out from under her almost immediately. And it's been you know what? I'll put it right there. It's been downhill ever since. Has their attendances been respectable in terms of TJPW standards? I suppose. But guys, this is the number 2 promotion. I did the State of Joshi for TJPW episode on the Patreon. And they haven't reached anywhere close to numbers pre-pandemic of the competition that was going on during that time. Main event saw Miyu Yamashita defeat Regina, not from Saskatchewan, Rosendahl. She's actually from Finland. And, I like to think I'm a guy that has I've taken my pulse on women's wrestling worldwide. I did articles over women's wrestling in Europe monthly last year. Ain't no Regina Rosendahl anywhere near that list. Who is she? Nobody knows who she is. Is she a large 160, 200-pound woman that's 5'7" probably against Miyu Yamashita from Finland? Yeah, I guess that's how I describe her. Because who is she? The best I got is she has a couple appearances in Body Slam wrestling. Remember that? That's a throwback episode there. I like the little Denmark indie promotion out there. I like it. I've talked to the booker guy. I've talked to wrestlers that have been in that promotion. I have a lot of respect for Body Slam wrestling, what they do. Who is Regina Rosendahl? Well, she came out here and had a bad match with Miyu Yamashita. Oh my god, it is the lowest cage match rated TJPW main event. That's like Corkin or one of their big shows in years. It's an abysmal rating. No one understands what this was about. Are we going to see more of this woman in the promotion? Is she signed to TJPW? No, but she gets to come in and have a title match. While people like Mio Watanabe and company, because let's just throw the rest of them in that bucket, don't get to do shit, and they lose all the time. How do you expect to draw interest when, even when you get foreigners, no one knows who the fuck they are? It's quite amazing. And I'm sure you guys listening to this podcast have seen the GIFs of this match. It's quite terrible. Especially the spear that happens from like the knees, and Miyu has to kind of bump for herself in this match. It's not a good performance. I was close to going dud on this. It was quite bad. And Miyu Yamashita, in her last two matches, just in terms of like executing her own moves, she has not been anywhere near even her B game. But hey, enjoy her in MLW where everyone's asking for their releases. We move on to All Japan Women. And welcome to the All Japan Women's Destiny podcast. I'm your host, JD. Welcome to another episode as we go through the history of All Japan Women's Professional Wrestling through the Classics episodes that you can find on various places of the internet. I vastly encourage to follow along and learn and enjoy the history of this just awesome women's wrestling promotion of the past. This is a spin-off in conjunction with the Red Leaf Retrocast. That is the proper episode where these come from. We hope you enjoy our audio and our discussions over the various wrestlers and the matches in which we go through the ages. If you like what you hear and you want more content, please consider checking out the Patreon. That is patreon.com/redleafretrocast, all one word, where we also cover LLPW, various other women's wrestling promotions of the past, and the project that the whole reason it exists is the Joshi 2010's journey, where we go through coming out of the dark ages of Joshi professional wrestling and really learning and having fun with wrestlers that we're very familiar with to this day to ones that we may have missed out on. I hope you enjoy the audio you're about to hear covering AJW. And if you want more, please, again, consider signing up to the Patreon and leaving us reviews over at iTunes, Spotify, and the like, all your favorite podcasting outlets in which you listen to AJW and the Red Leaf Retrocast. Enjoy. Episode 100 of the Classics here. All Japan Women Destiny. Red Leaf Retrocast proper. I'm pouring some Haitian rum. Full glass tonight, guys. Because I'm joined here by Alex, the other Joshi historian out there. Welcome, welcome to such a historic episode.
Yeah, no better one to be on than the big one. The big one. Literally the big one.
It's the biggest women's show of all time. All 66,000 people in the arena. Oh my god. Yeah, we're doing Big Egg Wrestling Universe, the Tokyo Dome show by All Japan Women. We're in November. My god. What's funny is the Classics completely skipped over Marine Pad of this year. So I was like, I can't just say a Big Egg is now episode 101. That's dumb. I can't do that. it's clearly on purpose and by design. So I was like, okay, I'll just backtrack a couple weeks, do Marine Pad next time, because in the Classics, Big Egg covers, I think it's like 5 episodes of the Classics. They just do everything. So might as well watch the whole show at that point, sort of, kind of. And I'm like, no, there's so much content out there and so much news and just random coverage over this Big Egg show. I figured this could be a celebratory show. It is 100 episodes of AJW Destiny. Look, been covering this thing since the episode 1 of the Classics, which is in 1984. Even went back as far as covering some things from the late 70s, early 80s. Still going to do some other things for it, but this is my probably 3rd or 4th time watching the Big Egg show in some heavy capacity. And I gotta say, having full context of this era now behind, like in front of me and behind me, of what it used to be and now what it is, the show has a lot more different meanings, and so do the matches. What's your context of the show, and what's this mean to you as a coverage of the Joshi?
It's kind of a weird one because it's a big show, obviously, and a lot of people don't get a lot of the stuff that was happening. Like, I think the Hokuto aspect of it is huge, right? And not a lot of people understand just how much was going on with Hokuto in this show. And I think that's a big thing because at this point, she's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And then you have all these other companies who have kind of, they are peaking, or they have already peaked, and this is like the best it's going to get for them. So it's just a really interesting like screenshot of what the scene was like, given that just 2 years later, I mean, Kansai is falling apart, and Kandori is just in the hell of, well, I'm not losing to anyone, so you don't get big matches. Like, it's just it's such a weird snapshot considering just how quickly things kind of dip after it.
Well, what's also interesting for me is because I'm doing the LLPW podcast on the Patreon and been going through that promotion, there's a lot of background simply on LLPW that I just didn't know. And, look, there's a lot of controversy also coming out of the show during the show. And the most notable thing that I came across that I never knew prior was the supposed, almost shoot fight that Kandori did on Hokuto, during the ceremony. Are you familiar with this story?
I'm not. No, that's a new one to me.
Yeah, Meltzer reported it. Weekly Pro reported it, and then where I think it's Weekly Pro that's running a Tokyo Dome show in April, just following this, and there's going to be a lot of LLPW, FMW involvement there. But yeah, before. I've covered this greatly on the LLPW podcast because of what happened at this show. It's kind of the prime reason why AJW stopped working with LLPW altogether. And then the booking behind FMW's controversy, in which Onita didn't want any of his biggest wrestlers to lose, namely Megumi Kudo not being in the V-Top tournament. He just didn't want to play ball with AJW either. So the original person was going to be Yuki Nabeno, was going to be in the V-Top tournament as reported of the time. And something must have happened where it's like, look, guys, you're FMW. Who the fuck are you? Give us someone that's not your worst wrestler on the roster. They FMW went as far as to put the title on Nabeno at one point. But we ended up getting Combat Toyota on the show. And so basically, FMW is so difficult to work with constantly that AJW cut ties with them as soon as 1995 starts and cut ties with LLPW because during the ceremony, Kandori just decides she's just going to shoot her own angle with Hokuto. And Hokuto, known for just not liking this woman at all, being very difficult to work with, a fraud of a person. I've seen some quotes loosely translated. Very interesting kind of real-life heat between Hokuto and Kandori. But Kandori, the way she was acting, the way she acted in the lead-up, the LLPW having Kandori as champion, changing their title. There's phantom title changes involving Tateno and Eagle Sawai. where Tateno allegedly loses the title, but then doesn't, and then it was all like false reporting on purpose. Fascinating stories. So Kandori shoots on Hokuto to the point where Hokuto's like thinking this woman's going to actually hurt me, and starts fighting back. Everyone gets pulled apart. Rumi Kazuma and Kandori are absolutely pissed off because Hokuto started fighting for real, like in a complete defense of this woman just going into business for herself. And it gets to the point where it's reported out that Eagle Sawai was being persuaded by Rumi Kazuma to shoot on Hokuto in their match to essentially ruin it and have Eagle Sawai go over. And I'm like, oh, what does this remind me of in the modern era on possibly the biggest show of a company's history or the scene's history, and someone gets in a fight on stage, backstage, going into business for themselves. And I'm ever since I read this and discovered the story, all I can think of is Kandori as CM Punk of the Joshi era.
I mean, she's very Punk-esque, and as an onlooker, they are such fascinating pro wrestlers, but I cannot imagine dealing with them in person. That is for sure.
No. So the LLPW story is completely wild. It impacts the show greatly, to the point where it almost loses. And the other controversy coming out of the show was Chigusa Nagayo, where just at, I believe it was St. Final Battle, or whatever the August show it was. No, it was Legacy of Queens, I believe, is she makes this like weird return. And then the day after, she announces, oh, I'm going to form my own promotion called Gaia, but it's actually going to be not a promotion. It's going to be a group that she's training. And it's in kayfabe supposed to be a quote-unquote like invasion group into AJW to help Nagayo and her trainees that she's taken under wing. But it's a promotion. All the media knows it's a promotion at the time, but AJW and Nagayo are still trying to play it off as some sort of invasion angle. Well, about a few days before this show, apparently there's real heat between Reggie Bennett and Chigusa Nagayo that's fucking weird and bizarre, leading to apparently Nagayo just holds foreigners with absolute disdain in the wrestling ring and how they conduct themselves, and she has this higher than mighty attitude, especially around 94 and 95, and Reggie Bennett jokingly cuts like a kayfabe promo that pisses off Chigusa because Bennett essentially calls her not so much a bigot in so many words or some sort of like foreigner hater, but tries to drum up some heat for the match. And because, well, this is real, and Bennett's trying to cut a story around it, Chigusa Nagayo cuts this just nonsense in the ring. And when was the last time you even watched that Bennett-Nagayo match that's on the show?
I couldn't have even told you there was one. So I think that's saying a lot.
Well, so it's a weird match where it just looks like they're just not cooperating. And then when you see something like that and you read these things, you're going, oh, okay. Now you got context behind it. And it's so weird. So Nagayo at times is being quoted as saying, fuck this, fuck you, throughout the match. And Bennett's just trying to like fight for her life, essentially, because Nagayo's kind of a shoot fighter of sorts. And Bennett is not. She's more of a construction worker. Uh-oh. That was my phone ringing. Let's turn that off. So, and then this is where the controversy lies, is Nagayo gets on the mic post-match and says some foreigner slurs that gets her a lot of heat at the time. So that gives her a lot of bad publicity, and trying to start her own company shortly after this kind of gives credence to why Gaia started a little bit later than maybe they intended.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. How did she not, like, this is a presumably smart woman. You don't get to her level without having some intelligence. How do you not go, maybe I shouldn't say this? Like, that is baffling to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories floating around about a lot of the higher veteran people, whether it's Bull Nakano facing Alundra Blaze on the show, and she is full on WWF. So she's just ousted from the Matsunagas, who allegedly tell her, like, oh, you'll never make it abroad, you're a waste. Same thing with Chigusa. Oh, you're a woman, what are you gonna do? Create your own promotion, ha ha ha, go for it. There's a lot of resentment among the Matsunagas and a lot of their, let's call it 80s talent, right? And also on this show is the Jaguar Yokota. Who else was in that match? It was my girl Yumi Ogura, the best worker ever.
The Jade Star, is it? The offer match?
Yeah, the
Linus?
future JD Star offer match. Let's see. It was Linus Asuka and let's see. Okay, here we go. Jaguar and Bison Kimura coming back from her horrid injury, which she suffered to Aja Kong. What a rad match, though. Yeah,
wasn't that in the Grand Prix?
Yeah, it was like the first match in the Grand Prix for Bison Kimura and Aja, and supposedly Bison was going to win that match, and it was going to cause some storyline in the Grand Prix. So there was a rumor before this show that because Jaguar Yokota's been on comms for so long, she's seen Jackie Sato create her own promotion that's heavily featured on this show. Obviously, they split way before this, but you get the idea. And Jaguar wants to return to wrestling, especially because they have now dropped the age rule at this point in time. But the Matsunagas, again, say, no, you're retired. We're not taking you back. Too late, too bad. And there's this weird aura and rumor about Jaguar just being all pissed off on the show because Nagayo's come back. She's announced her own thing. Bull is not retired and now in WWF. And it's like, okay, I was one of your big stars. What the hell? Notably, no Tateno on this show and no Devil Masami for kind of similar reasons. There's a lot of speculation and actual heat behind the show, which is just super fascinating. A lot involving the Matsunagas. Big shock.
Yeah, they just were not great, really, were they? Like to have such backward views is one thing, but to turn money away like that is just insane to me. You know, because they had no problem going back to nostalgia when they had nothing else. But then when they were doing well, they were like, "Oh no, you old hags get nothing." And it's just so incredible. Like how did these dudes ever succeed? They are just such terrible businessmen on every level. It's insane to me.
Well, as you and I wrote on the Rossi Ogawa piece on Voices of Wrestling, and now up is our beauty pair piece, which I love writing these things with you. They're so much fun, and I can tell you personally that there's a lot of voters that have now read our piece on the beauty pair and have greatly considered them a slam dunk as well.
Oh, that's cool. You know, I think Rich actually said to me that he was going to vote for them now as well. And he wasn't a beauty pair voter. He was very much like, I'm not sure if I'll do it this year. And then when I sent it in, he was like, okay, yeah, I think I have to. So, yeah, we're doing good stuff, which is really all I want to do. You know, I just want people to know how cool these wrestlers were.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Hopefully in time I can get Kandori and Ozaki on the ballot and just watch the shit show that ensues because of it. But anyways, yeah, it's just a super bizarre thing. And back to like why I brought up Ogawa in the first place is, look, the Matsunagas were like bad at their jobs. That's how I look at it. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for Rossi Ogawa in this era, in at least whatever capacity that we know or can speculate, he probably saved this company a good half to a decade of some sort of success, because without him, I'm kind of on the belief that the Matsunagas would have failed like much sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably led the charge to get the male fans in for the Bull and the Ajas and stuff like that. And then he also probably wanted to work with other promotions, whereas I doubt they did. So I feel like everything that made this company do well between now and the Exodus seems like Rossi's fingerprints. And we can't prove that, obviously, but Rossi and the precedent he has is target men and also work with others. So, like, I'm led to believe that that was him and his idea. And those are two things that really helped AJW recover after the Crush Gals retired.
Yeah, and if you ever read an interview or listen to the man and how he talks about like the past and his roles, he's very like backseat to it all. He doesn't like to reveal things. Like he's a wrestler that doesn't like to talk. It's very funny how this man conducts himself in business, and it's like, why don't you just like tell people what you did? And he's like, no, I got to make it riddles.
How did he write a book without like giving anything away?
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I tried getting someone to like buy it and translate a lot of it, and then they read it and they go, he doesn't really like confirm anything. He just makes it seem like, oh yeah, I was involved, but I'm not gonna give you proof of it just yet. Man, what are you doing? Just take some credit, damn it.
What an interesting man. He still claims that he worked for Jade Star at least like once, didn't he? But there's never any proof
like he was involved with it.
Yeah, he just said it in his blurb of his book. He was like, yeah, I was a producer there or something, and that's it. That's all we know.
Yeah, supposedly there's a Jaguar Yokota interview where it's like she brought him in for like some consulting. It's like, how do I get this fucking shit started kind of situation. And I'm about to sell, like, what do I do? Because, well, Ogawa was a businessman and Jaguar Yokota was not. I believe she dropped out of school like most other wrestlers. So it's like, how do I do this? So yeah, this tournament is just the VTOP tournament is a whack like concept, because as I've gone through just the build up to this thing, Akira Hokuto announced her retirement like a year in advance. She's doing the Keiji Muto tour. Keiji Muto, shout out Akira Hokuto for the idea. And she's doing her last bye-bye at the Dome, and she's going to Yokohama. She's all in these like big ending matches. She's teaming with Kandori. She's not quite putting anyone over, but she doesn't really need to at this point in time. Then the Matsunagas were trying their fucking hardest to have this woman not retire and just leave permanently to Mexico. And Akira Hokuto at the time, she was married. She was CMLL champion at this time in a mask to try to keep some sort of kayfabe. And she's come back, and they're trying one last time to convince her. It's like, look, we're gonna make this for the title. You're gonna win. You're gonna beat Aja Kong, and then if that doesn't convince you, you can simply retire the belt. And Akira Hokuto, being a absolute professional at all of this, and so much respect. Anytime you see this woman interview or how she looks at wrestling, it's quite humbling, and she has no reason to kind of be that way. It really reminds me a lot of like a Kenny Omega type character, where they're always looking out for what can they do to better the environment around them, or realizing, I have X amount of time, I can only do X amount of things. Very fascinating wrestler, and the more I watch Akira Hokuto and have watched her throughout this journey, the amount of respect and awe I have of this woman's work is immense. There's a reason why she's a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's, at this point in time, she's probably the best wrestler in the world. As soon as the Dangerous Queen kicks off, she just doesn't look back. Like this,
it's even before
this was
that.
A woman. I mean, oh yeah, for sure. But I think like the Dangerous Queen arc in itself could be considered one of the best runs that anybody has ever had. Like, there's just nobody touching her. She just got it like on every level, and just really gave herself to pro wrestling, kind of on the level where, in the modern day, so many wrestlers grew up as such big fans that this is their thing. I think Hokuto was almost the same. Like, she was willing to just give everything for the business in the same way that a lot of people nowadays are, especially some of the top wrestlers.
Yeah. And so back to this V-Top tournament, AJW wanted X amount of women in this, and they didn't know how to kind of kayfabe their way into it, so they used the entire Grand Prix to just have round-robin block matches, and the top 2 people will, quote-unquote, win the right to be in this thing, while people from other promotions are just kind of put into it. So a total waste of the Grand Prix, and so much so that the amount of history still maintained of that particular Grand Prix is extremely low. And, you know, after what I saw in it, you're like, okay, yeah, I kind of see why this didn't stand the test of time. It almost feels like a worthless endeavor and a waste of everyone's time. Have you ever gone back and tried to watch any of the Grand Prix from '94?
Not that one specifically, but I feel like I've seen older Grand Prix, and I feel like they were just never done well. You know, it's one thing they seem to always struggle at, except for when it was like a one-day tournament, or they would get to like the very last parts. But I'm definitely not surprised that with All Eyes on the Tokyo Dome, they kind of just left that in the dust, because they never really seem to be great at formatting the Grand Prix properly. At least that's the sense I've got.
I mean, I've seen some good Grand Prix, at least in the sense of especially the semifinals and finals, or whatever format they decided whichever year, which isn't a terrible idea, where you change the format up each year if you're not going to have just a straight knockout tournament later in the year. You know, with modern wrestling, you have all these different formats and tournaments that happen all year round to drum up interest and maintain, you know, a longer period of buzz. But with how AJW continuously runs these things, look, 92, 93, I thought were incredibly hot years, great bounce backs from post Nagayo, right? And completely changing over an audience. That's not easy to do. And the context of how short a time they did this turnaround, and then leading up to this Dome show, a lot has to do with the interpromotional interest and Akira Hokuto herself. And I know you're way big on Aja Kong and not so big on Manami Toyota. I mean, at this point in time, I'm the Akira Hokuto #1 kind of guy. Mm-hmm. What's your take on what I've just said about Akira Hokuto? I contribute a lot to the Dome being about her, and it is her. Yeah,
I mean, the advertisements that I've seen have her. You know, there's the one everybody has seen with her and the sword and the pictures laid out in front of her. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much other branding there was for this show, but the biggest ones are Hokuto is front and center. So I don't think I can argue. I mean, I'm certainly a big Aja Kong fan, but as I say, I think during this period, the Hokuto was just untouchable. And obviously with her, you know, planning her retirement, you kind of have to make the show all about her. She's the main character, basically, at this point in time.
Yeah, and her kind of going through the, I guess, quintessential, I'm a woman, I must now start a family, get rid of this cute little wrestling thing that we constantly see in articles and promoters telling us about women's wrestling. And it's still very prominent of this time, as much as we like to pretend maybe the 90s were more progressive. Not so much in Japan. It was still very much like that. And with Hokuto getting married and with the prospect of working in the kitchen and having children. Oh, Alex, come on. Gotta do it, right? You can't. You're a woman, damn it. How could you like actually still want to wrestle? That's silly. Wrestling is for men, damn it. Kira Hokuto was not so much like that, and ironically, neither was Jackie Sato.
Yeah, old Jackie. Yeah, it was. She's a really big one. Jackie Sato and Devil. They kind of came back to bite them. That old school mentality, because people had tried before, hadn't they? They had like tried to set up things, but they just didn't work. But when you have Jackie Sato and Devil, it's like, okay, maybe we pissed off the wrong people here.
Yeah, it's which is weird to me, because Devil worked up a few other shows for AJW, but I wasn't able to confirm anything about her in particular. But clearly there was some fallout between Devil Masami and the Matsunagas after those shows, and her just not being involved in the show, I think, and even Dump Matsumoto comes to mind, but Dump was so broken by the time of her retirement. I understand why she wasn't here, but then of course she comes back many years later as a husk, and it's just like, okay, what happened? Tell me what happened in the 90s with you, Dump.
Yeah, that poor girl. I think she really hated wrestling, to be fair, when she left. Like a lot of the stuff she said basically was like, I don't want to do this anymore. The people around me don't want me to do this. It's not good. So I can definitely see why Dump stayed as far away as possible until, I don't know, maybe she needed money. Maybe they needed her. I'm not sure what happened, but it certainly seemed like she was fully done with wrestling after her retirement. So, and not that I blame her, to be fair.
The ironic part is now she's been more involved with Stardom than she ever was with AJW post her retirement.
Oh man, dude, I still haven't watched that match. I don't think I want to.
Don't watch any of those.
No, honestly, I wish I could.
Yeah. So Akira Hokuto, she's quote unquote retiring at the end of the show. She does not want the title. She absolutely refuses it. So during the ceremony, they present the V-Top title. This is to determine the best women's wrestler in the entire world, bar none. We're done here. The winner is you're crowned. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a nice looking thing. Not bad. And then we got the show, right? We got, I'm just going to blast through this because there's a million things here. So we got Bomber Hikari, Chaparita Asari defeating Hiromi Sugo and Hiromi Yagi. Super Rookie said at the time is Hiromi Yagi. We got a midget match. Little person. Including Little Great Muda and Mr. Buddha Man and trying to offend everybody in 2023 as much as possible. Candy Okatsu defeats Rita Mata for the AJW Junior title. She retains it. Suzuka Minami, Gatekeeper Extraordinaire, Mid-Carter, defeats Kaoru in a mask. But then she unmasks herself, and she announces she's a part of Gaia, and weirdness occurs there. We have a slew of shoot matches that are incredibly boring and terrible, and doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things. But hey, UFC, brother, really taking off. Chigusa Nagao, Reggie Bennett, we talked about. Not to mention the weird roll-up pin that ensued as they went through it. And there's quite a few of those on this show when you kind of look closely. Gami and Kandori defeat Tomoko Watanabe and Toshi Yamada, where Kandori, I mean, there's some theories out there that she shot on Yamada to specifically armbar her. I mean, that was not confirmed, but that is just theory. I was like, well, after everything else that came out during the show, why would that shock me?
Yeah.
LCO defeats Michiko Nagashima and Yasha Kurenai to really put in the LOPW burial strong. Bison Kimura, Jaguar Yokota, not defeats. They go to a 10-minute, 46-second draw against Asuka and Yumi Ogura. And then, of course, Saki Asagawa, really on the verge of getting that upper card push, really going to get that big win. A lot of fandom behind her that grew and grew exponentially in 1994. She was really the kind of next generation wrestler. So naturally, put her in a mask, take away her identity, give her a weird-ass manga anime entrance, and take away everything that made her Saki Asagawa. So she's
Change
Blizzard
her moveset. Kind of. She did more kicks as Blizzard. Yeah. That was kind of her thing. So great. Love that.
Hey, Big Dave gave it 4 stars.
You know, I mean, it probably rocked. I mean, Saki Asagawa can make anything work.
Yep. And then we get to our V-Top tournament matches. Combat Toyota defeats Yumika Hota, 17 minutes. One Dave Meltzer, who was there live, gave it 4.75 stars. Do you agree with this? What'd you think of the match?
I always liked it, but I'm a big Hota fan. Like, I have to put that right out there. Yumika Hota ticks a lot of boxes for me, so I was quite into it. And I thought this was one of the better Combat Toyota matches I've seen, because here. So yeah, I mean, for that era, 4.75 is probably a bit high, but for now, you'd probably get away with it.
You think it'd still get 4.75 in today's world? Because that's kind of where I wanted to go with this is, A, do they hold up, and do they hold up in the modern eyes?
It might get over 5. I feel like a lot of stuff just gets 5+ now, so I think it could get 5 or 5+.
Maybe. I
Like
don't know.
if Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey got 5.25, I don't know where the bar is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I went like 4.25 on that because the ending was really good, but I didn't really care for a whole lot of the beginning sections. But hey, here we are. No, I agree. This is one of the better Combat Toyota matches I've ever seen to this point in time, especially with context. And I'm a known Yumiko Hotta hater. However, ever since that hand match in early '94 against Aja Kong, I've completely turned around on this woman for this year.
Oh, hell yeah.
The joke that that friends and I have had, at least in my perspective, I just kept going, when does Yumiko Hotta get good? I keep seeing this woman since like 1986, and all I see is this person who wants to beat Chigusa Nagayo really bad. So the hand match really turned me around, and she keeps putting in performances like this. She seems like Yumiko Hotta, finally. So I'm really appreciating her more. She loses this match, even does the just before 3 kick out routine, which always amuses me to no end. So there's your second one on the show in which this happens.
I love AJW. They were just like, if you don't kick out at 3, it's not a real match. Like, you have to do it.
Yeah. So then Akira Hokuto against Eagle Sawai. I was watching this with very close eyes now that I knew everything. And I was like, as soon as I saw Eagle Sawai get her up for that like Thunder Driver powerbomb, the over-the-shoulder powerbomb, and then crack her immediately, I went, was she actually trying to shoot on her? It's kind of working myself there, but I was like, man, it got me. And okay, so the Hokuto matches, there's been conversation about her on the show where she kind of had the weakest performances of everyone on the show. But in the context of who she was up against and the time allotted, I don't disagree, like, they were the weakest matches by a technicality, but what she had to work with, I thought Hokuto did phenomenal throughout this, because Eagle Sawai has stunk in '94. Just, she's been terrible. She hasn't delivered in any big matches. She half-assed it, or at least seems like it, in LLPW throughout all her quote-unquote big matches. So for Hokuto to really bring this out of someone, to me, that's what all-time workers do. That's what all-time stars do. And Sawai, of course, was motivated on the biggest women's show that was going to happen. And I thought, I almost went 4 stars on this, actually, while Meltzer went 3.5. What's your take?
You know, I always liked Eagle as the powerhouse heel kind of version of her. And obviously against a Hokuto who the entire audience wants to see her win and win the tournament, it worked really well. So I thought it was a very strong heel babyface match with some good power stuff and, you know, Hokuto being Hokuto. So I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I could argue that it was like the weakest match of the, well, maybe the final, but, you know, we can get to that. Yeah.
So following that was Aja Kong defeating Manami Toyota, 17 minutes, 17 seconds, 9.51 on Cage Match, almost 200 votes at this point in time upon recording. 5 stars in the Observer. Is this worthy of 5 stars? We're the stingy Joshi fans.
Yeah. I go back and forth on this one because I watched this when I was first diving into this stuff, and I approached it from the mindset of Aja's the heel and Manami is the babyface. And when you watch it from that angle, I can see it. But when you realize who these two are and how good some of their matches after this were going to be, it's a very questionable 5. I can maybe see why Dave being there would give it 5. I think watching Toyota live is probably an edge of the experience, and also rooting for her against Asha Kong is probably great. But yeah, this is a very weirdly aged 5, but I can see why it got that. Like, fundamentally, it's a very strong match, but I think they had better ones.
Especially for the time, and it does make you wonder. It's like, okay, then are there future matches, the 5+ that he gives out so easily today, seemingly?
I mean, the last one probably is, when Aja was like clearly leaving and going out the door, and they kind of just ran back everything. I've always enjoyed that one, but he might have gone 5+ on that.
The ultimate run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the moment when Aja Kong does the flapjack powerbomb thing on Toyota on the ramp that's level with the ring, just runs up the thing and splats her, I just went, okay, you got my attention.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. Toyota not botching anything for a change really ramps it up, because then when Toyota goes into that mode, I do appreciate her a lot more. Sometimes you get some Toyota Yamada matches like from the Grand Prix where it just doesn't land, and then you get matches like this where you just go, okay, this is why she's one of the greatest in-ring women's wrestlers ever. It's because she's the only one that can do this shit situation. When was the last... since her, who else has done the no-hands springboard?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, she was fearless, man. I'll give her that. She just did what she wanted.
Yeah. So the match is phenomenal. I'm not sure if I'm 5 stars either, but the match is incredible to see. It's 17 minutes. Any other 17-minute Joshi match I've seen probably has a tough time living up to this one. And the fact it's in front of 40,000 plus definitely ramps it up, because that does make a difference when you got a crowd like this behind it.
Yeah, that's fair. The dome crowd is a pretty spectacular kind of feature for pro wrestling, especially since we haven't seen Joshi get it since then. Well, technically since Bridge of Dreams, but
Kansai defeats Kyoko Inoue, so all of your AJW Grand Prix finalists and Kyoko get the big... Kyoko's in it because she's the Wonder Champion, if you will. All Pacific, white belt, and she loses to Kansai 1738. So that makes Kansai the big, like, non-AJW wrestler to get a victory on this show, or at least continuing on to further rounds. Yes, there's Combat Toyota. We'll get to her again in a second, but it really gave me a little bit more perspective on kind of the current standing of people like Hota, Toyota, and Inoue compared to kind of the heavy hitters. Kong, Kansai, Hokuto, Toyota. You get the idea. Big, meat-slapping people, right?
Oh yeah, they loved Kansai. I feel like if they could have signed Kansai, they would have in an instant. They loved her. Like,
I mean, they had her at one point.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, her being 3WA champion is always insane to me. Like, to think they gave an outsider the belt just voluntarily is something else.
So they clearly like her, and I think a lot of that has to do with JWP playing ball. I think there's something to be said there that JWP was the only one that played ball between FMW and LLPW, and I feel like they were rewarded a lot more for their cooperation.
Yeah, I think going back, I remember there's an LLPW anniversary show where it's just AJW wrestlers beating up rookies because politically that was all you could do. And then you look at what JWP got, and they got the Thunder Queen battle, which is one of the greatest matches to have ever happened, because both sides were willing to go, okay, here's who can lose, here's how they can lose, and here's what we can get from it. And that ended in a much better result than LLPW going, okay, you can pin our rookies, but Kandori has to win. And so AJW would just pair up with some loser, whereas JWP, you got big matches because people were willing to work together and make things happen.
Yeah, I was also fascinated by Ozaki not being on this show. especially in the next match where it's Hikari Fukuoka, Megumi Kudo against Cutie Suzuki and Takako Inoue. Was Ozaki injured during this time? I couldn't quite find that.
Yeah, I'm not sure now on that. Maybe they knew she was had her eyes on Gaia and didn't want to work with her.
When did that start, though?
I'm pretty sure. I thought she was one of the kind of original folks that jumped. Yeah, 95. She first worked Gaia.
I guess
I think she went
keep an
straight
eye on.
into like SSU and stuff. So she was always kind of around as a big heel.
Okay. Yeah, I found that interesting. But yeah, that was the idol fight. Fukuoka and Kudo win. I have to imagine that Ozaki was supposed to get that role here instead of Hikari Fukuoka, and maybe they had something else planned for her. But hey, there you go. There's your FMW thing going on there. We got a random Michinoku Pro match, because why not? That got 4 stars in the Observer. What a weird...
Sounds like Michi Pro.
Yeah.
Yes, people did love those six-man tags. All right.
Yeah. So Akira Hokuto defeats Combat Toyota in a sub 6-minute match. They do a table spot, leg selling, Northern Lights bomb. We're done here. Wipe the hands. And to be honest, I was very much okay with this because, look, everyone and their mother knew at this point Hokuto's going to the finals, right? Why waste like a 17-minute match this long into a show? But AJW clearly didn't care about time constraints. So it was an interesting choice. Maybe they just didn't want to risk Hokuto getting injured. I'm sure there was a lot of thoughts going into this particular match and why Combat Toyota was kind of in the position to do something like this.
Yeah, it probably was to do with protecting Hokuto. I mean, she's a very fragile woman. I don't know if fragile is the right word, or just like constantly injured. You know, she probably had 3 different injuries going into this show. So asking her to do a main event with Aja Kong off the back of a 17-minute match with, who was it she faced? An 11-minute match with Eagle Sawai. It would have been a lot if this had been a long match. You'd have been asking a very broken woman to wrestle like 40 minutes in one show.
Yeah, and Eagle Sawai bodied that woman for all 11 minutes. It was like watching a hockey fight.
Yeah, she made her earn that one. That's for sure.
That reminds me, Chigusa Nagayo bled within like 2 minutes of her match with Reggie Bennett, just randomly. Because of course
Nagayo, as soon as she got away from AJW's constraints, she was just like, I'm going to beat people, and they're going to beat me. And it was great. I can't lie.
Aja Kong defeats Dynamite Kansai in a 12.5-minute match. Honestly, and there was a lot of people that kind of talked to me about this. Their Legacy of Queen match from August 93, I didn't like that very much. But I like this one a lot more.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with this pairing, but they definitely had some matches that were better than others. This was like the best possible version because they didn't have enough time to sit in submissions, which is a thing both of them tend to do.
Hey,
so
Chigusa Nagayo only had 9 minutes, and she got 3 rest holds in that fucker. So don't you ever underestimate the 80s wrestlers.
That's true. Yeah, I think that 12 minutes they just got to like beat each other a lot, and that's all you want from 2. I don't know if I can say big bastards, but these are big bastards, and all you want is for them to beat each other up. So
yeah, because they had a 22-minute match. Both times in, 94 and then, August 93 and May 94. I never saw the JWP match.
It's bad.
Which Kong won. So that one's bad.
I think I watched it recently and it was really boring.
So that's what I thought about their first match for the 3WA title at the Budokan, where they just kind of hit the mat for good chunks of time. So them just being forced to go, okay, guys, you got 12 minutes. Go kick and slap each other a lot. And I'm like, okay, this rules. I vastly prefer this. 4 stars, 4.25. Take your pick. I don't care. I loved it. Meltzer went 4.5. And I'm like, okay, bro, I'm not that high, but it was only 12 minutes. But I thought this was the strongest Kong Kansai match I've seen.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I think I like the Legacy of Queens one just because it's interesting to see somebody fight back against Kong to that extent. It was quite the sight to see, kind of with how she was booked. Whereas here they're just kind of going toe to toe, and it's a lot more entertaining. But I do think the Legacy one has its own merits.
Yeah. Bull Nakano defeats Alundra Blaze, the Medusa one, WWF Women's title. Look, it's sub 10 minutes. It's like watching a WWF house show match with two decent workers. Bull Nakano's way better, obviously, but not at this time. And not on this match with Alundra Blaze. It's interesting when I kind of peruse around and ask others like what they think of like this duo in a wrestling match. It's almost like rose-colored glasses a lot of the times. And when you ask them about this show, they're like, "Oh yeah, that was a good match." I'm like, I don't know. I thought it was like one of the worst ones on the show.
Wow, I actually like them as a pairing. I think they have good chemistry. Like just from like Bull is the heel and Blaze is the baby face. I think it works for what they go for. They're certainly not amazing together, but I do think there's some level of chemistry there.
I think there's a nice house show style they develop for sure. Kind of like a 2.5, 3-star deal, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I am watching this, and I'm going, guys, this is like the biggest show you guys might be up against. Do your thing. You're in the semi-main. Let's see something here. I want to see Bull Nakano hit some like flipping leg drops. Damn it!
Oh man, she wasn't giving them that. She was checked out.
Yeah, she was after that chain match with Kandori, she was done.
Yeah, not that I blame her, but yeah, she developed some habits that got her fired eventually.
Oh, come on, you can say what habits those were.
Well, she liked to take the powder, so who knows what she was like going into this match.
Was she officially on that at this time, though? I thought that was like in 95 when, well, maybe she was on it already.
Yeah, she might have been on it, just not caught. Not speculating, but I'd imagine people are on things long before they get caught, but who knows?
I imagine Bull Nakano was hanging out with the Road Warriors and having some parties. Know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Could you imagine those three like walking to a bar together and they're just going, "Ah, what a rush!" It's like in Minnesota of all places, some random place like Minneapolis.
Oh man!
Now I got fun pictures. All right, Akira Hokuto defeats Aja Kong in the main event. Incredible entrances. This stage was just so good. It was for the early and mid 90s. You only got something like this at like a WrestleMania, right? With the pageantry, and like WCW never did anything like this. They just couldn't. They would rather do shit like the Black Scorpion, and I'm watching this like triangle ramp where everyone looks like they're awkwardly walking sideways. It's an incredible just sight throughout the whole show, and then when the final match happens, I was like, okay, this is what it feels like. Why I've watched all of this to this point in time. Aja Kong has put in 2 incredible performances in a row. She's really given so much on this one show that's not even really about her. But in 90, okay, so she won the title from Bull Nakano, and it was a great moment. I'm not really high on the matches personally, but I get the context and moments of it and what the significance was, and getting, Bull Nakano's putting this woman over. And then seemingly after that, Akira Hokuto, Kandori, Hokuto just takes off in popularity. The interpromotional war comes. You got Toyota and Yamada in the main events for heavy work rate, and Aja Kong is seemingly relegated to, third from the top, and frequently against just big wrestlers that aren't really all that impressive, at least match quality wise. Aja Kong was never the focus, and then as soon as both Bull Nakano and Hokuto, quote unquote, leave, then in 94 here, we're finally starting to see her as a main eventer. And then we get to the show, and upon, like, again, I'll go back to that hand match. That was a big turnaround even for Aja Kong in my eyes, because I had all this context around it. And I'm like, okay, this is what this woman is. And she just keeps getting better across the year. And here we are at the end of 94. She's got almost this full year under her belt where she's beginning to be what we now know Aja Kong to be. And here we are. It's Hokuto Kong. Talk to me, Alex.
So this was definitely the right match. These are the two top dogs in AJW at this point. Kong, you've been building up since Jungle Jack, basically. They said she's the one, and you've put years into making her into this monstrous presence. And so you put her against a woman who, by this stage, is probably already a legend, who is retiring, who is a fan favorite. You don't get a much bigger match than these two at this point in time. But I've always found the match itself to be very, very underwhelming, because I don't know for sure. It feels like both of them get hurt. Like, at a certain point, I'm not sure either of them is fully capable of walking, because they're both like limping and hobbling so badly on a knee. So I don't know if they both were just too like physically hurt at this point to put on a good match. But I've never really enjoyed it, despite the fact that it was obviously the best choice.
Yeah, we've talked about Hokuto's injuries and Kong putting in two incredible performances, and all she got was essentially a 10-minute break with entrances that she has to now walk and carry herself down this just long thing. Adrenaline's rushing. It's bound to like go away at any moment, right? Mm-hmm. And while I'm watching this, I'm a firm believer that there's a couple dives in this match in which they just totally cramp out. I'm not thinking they got injured. I just think that their bodies just kind of gave out on this night because of how much they had to put in. It's almost like watching a footballer in the World Cup and they've been asked to just really blitz themselves for 115 minutes, right? And they're just collapsing as the game goes on, and they're done. That's why these guys get subbed out before penalties, because they just can't even kick the ball anymore. That's how I looked at this match. Hokuto can barely walk. Kong can barely walk. I just think their legs are just cramped. Both of them. One more than other. Not to mention that they're in a physical sport, so they're also beat up and bruised. I just think the whole night and the lead-ups just took a toll on them. And this was the end result. Yeah, like there's no way these two at this point in time should be capable of putting on one of the best matches ever. And even Dave being there could only give this 3 3/4, which should tell you enough. Like, it was just so slow paced. There wasn't a lot. Like, there was intensity at some points, but then they just couldn't do the intensity at other points. So I could definitely see where you're coming from. I think it's definitely not great to wrestle, stop, and then wrestle again. I'd imagine that messes with you more than if you just kept wrestling. I'm not a wrestler, I don't know, but I'd imagine it's easier to just go for 60 minutes than to go for 20, stop, go for 20, stop, and then go again. That definitely seems like it would play havoc on your muscles. So yeah, I can definitely see where your point is. I think one or two of them, at least one of them, hurt a knee on some of the dives, because some of the landings didn't look great. I wouldn't be surprised if Kong especially like blew a knee, or at least jammed it heavily for the night.
Yeah, definitely. But like physically, neither of them was there. It was really, really disappointing to see this kind of show end with basically the two of them crawling over the line.
Yeah, and they're visibly just upset with their performance. They're pissed off, kind of just at themselves at the end result. You can see it in their faces, their mannerisms, everything. And then Hokuto still has to cut this promo. It's like, no, I don't want the 3WA championship. I'll take the V-Top title, I guess, as a consolation prize. But Kong, you are the future of this company, etc., etc. You know, what's fascinating and disappointing as a fan is these two would never, to my knowledge, have another singles match after this.
Yeah, like this was the perfect time to get it, because I'd imagine they wrestled before. I've probably seen it, like I've probably watched it.
I don't think. Let's see. Marine Pied 93. They had a 20-minute match, and I don't really remember that one very much. Let's see. See if one Big Dave Meltzer gave that a rating. I'd have to re-listen to my old audio because that was at Tokyo Bay. Let's see here. Oh no, I do remember this match. It got 2.5 stars. It was really because that was post Hokuto injury, and she had to hobble up to the match. I remember that now.
That is peak Hokuto. Honestly, that is so Hokuto. They did wrestle in '91. I feel like I remember watching this for VTG, but that is like Fetus Aja and still Marine Wolf Hokuto. So. Yeah,
and that's still
not
like
the best of either.
Yeah, and that's still haven't been put over Jungle Jack Kong.
Yeah, definitely. Like they're still rising. So yeah, this was the one. If they were ever going to have an all-time classic, this was the one. And they just weren't able to do it.
Yeah, 91. It was at Corkin Hall. It was right in between the Jungle Jack and Marine Wolves kind of tag title rivalry that they had going there. So, yeah, it's almost like these two were kind of cursed against each other, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because it's two all-time greats that just never really got to have that good match.
Yeah, I find Hokuto left a lot of those on the table. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I know she never got to wrestle Kansai either. It's kind of like she left and started to do part-time at the worst possible time to get the big matches in. Yeah, it feels like there's a few names that she could have chalked off that she never did.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about Kandori, but that's kind of her own volition.
Yeah. Well, she eventually got some of them. I know she got Toyota eventually. I
haven't seen that yet, so that's gonna be a venture.
It's good. I rarely praise Toyota, but I thought it was excellent. So
maybe it's because
that might hype you.
For Kandori to rip her shoulder out further.
Maybe. I do like Toyota as she gets older. She gets a bit of swagger to her, and I'm always like, yeah, I like it. I like it. So
yeah, the point to AJW Destiny here, and having covered all this is the context, more than just going back and essentially watching, tape trading. Watching matches just because of work rate or because people recommend them. I've loved this journey. Alex, I love you coming on and doing this with me. The Big Egg Show is a landmark show in general. It goes without saying there. Look, this was a ton of fun to do. Akira Hokuto is now retired. Nothing bad will ever happen. People will stay retired. And the absolute total controversy coming out of the show has been a fascinating learning experience. And I hope even you learned something on this cast today.
I had no idea about a lot of the LLPW stuff. I do remember reading that Kandori was really upset because she knew they were faking out on Hokuto's retirement, and that pissed her off. So I had always wondered if she was gonna do something because she was mad, and well, I guess she did. She tried to shoot.
Yeah, it's for sure a lot of things that went down here. So, we're entering 1995 following this. Next episode will be Marine Pied. I will backtrack at least that one because, well, the Classics just decided to skip that one. Whatever. Not like there was good matches on there either. Yes, there was. So I'll do that, and then I'm probably going to do a Toyama episode along with a Mock Fumiaki episode. I think that's the two wrestlers I'm going to do.
Toyama? Who's that one?
Or Aoyama.
Oh, yeah, dude. She's an innovator. I remember writing for her about her ages ago, and I was like, only me and 3 other people are ever going to read this, but it has to...
I'm sorry, my computer caused you to break up there. Could you repeat that?
Oh yeah, I wrote about Aoyama a few years ago, and it was like only me and 3 other people are ever going to read this, but it needs to go out there. She is just eye popping. Like she was, if she had stayed healthy, she'd be looked back on as one of the more innovative Joshi wrestlers, I think.
Yeah, and there's a host of interviews with Toyota how she took a lot of inspiration in her moveset from her.
Yeah, because, Aoyama did some of the stuff Toyota did. And that's why I've always liked her. I was like, she was Toyota 15 years earlier, because there is some elements to her that I could see Toyota taking. So that's really, I'm glad to be vindicated there, because I had seen some similarities there.
Yeah, and to hear it straight from Toyota is a good time. All right, so look forward to those few episodes in the future here on AJW Destiny. Look, Alex, we did the impossible. We covered the entire Big Egg show in an hour. Who knew?
Yeah, so some podcasts do like an entire series just to build up to it, but we were just like, nah, we do the good stuff.
I mean, I've built up to this for almost 2 years now. I think over that is how long I've been doing this this particular podcast iteration. So, very much a party for me. I've drank my entire glass of rum here. Alex, I look forward to writing and talking about more Joshi with you in the future.
And you too. You are one of the smartest historians I know.
Oh,
I have
thank you.
to
Thank
say
you
it.
so much. Everyone, listen to Stardom Quest, the best, only Stardom podcast out there. See you next time. Okay, I had to play Becky Lynch's music because, Rickee, we're going to bury the fuck out of PWI. I'm excited.
I'm ready. I'm most excited to see how we did in our predictions of the top 5 compared to the actual PWI list.
Yeah, so the way we went about this last year, in case those listening don't remember or maybe didn't listen to the episode, or even if we forgot, I re-listened to last year's audio and I thought it was pretty good. We essentially went over the top 25 and more or less kind of broke down. We broke down more or less how, based on the criteria that PWI themselves lay out, and how much they kind of break their own rules. And one of the big talking points over the last number of years is they need, like, at least in my case of the argument I make, is they need to, if they're going to do this everyone gets on kind of thing, and we must represent everybody thing, then we need to establish tiers to these promotions.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that was kind of the theme here that I kind of want to stick with, because this year, compared to the last couple of years, it was very egregious to me in a lot of circumstances for these wrestlers and how they've ranked it. And honestly, with how PWI ranks things, once you get past the top 25, it just becomes starting to throw names at a wall, and it's not taken as seriously as the certain top tier group of people listed. So I just want to focus on that, while once you get past 25, it's kind of like, meh. We can discuss some snubs that didn't make the top 25. If you remember, I think it was last year, well, Will Ospreay was outside the top 25, and we're just kind of going, excuse me? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am drinking some beautiful rum from Haiti. I got a full glass poured here. I threw 4 ice cubes in there, by the way. Really chilling it
Just rum on the rocks, no mixer.
Correct.
Sweet enough on its own?
Oh, yeah. So there is black rum, which I've really been into. And this one is actually this is more of the sweetened sugarcane rum, where people are more familiar with and throw it into a lot of mixers. But I went through a Scotch phase years and years ago, drank it for many years. Went through an Irish whiskey phase, bourbon phase. Now I'm in my rum arc of my life, and I'm really enjoying it. Also, rum's cheaper because everything's way more expensive now.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm drinking Water.
Water. You and your studies and keeping a frame of mind. Ugh.
Well,
Responsibility.
I sat for my exam today.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how I feel about it. Definitely don't feel like I kicked my ass, but I'm also not like I nailed that. I'm in between. So we'll see. I think that score comes out on the 8th of November. Then I'll figure out if I have to take it again or not. But we are inside 100 days till the cruise. And so I'm working on my physique as well. So cutting booze out for now.
All right, fair enough. Responsibility, getting into bikini shape. I know the feeling. I don't fit in my bikini anymore. I'll put it that way.
And we'll see what happens.
So, just to reiterate what we're doing here, we're about to bury PWI. It's one of my favorite things to do every year. I do have my list. I love my rankings. I love it. I love making lists. They're so much fun to do. I love critiquing others. I love listening to others talk about this. I've been listening to a host of different podcasts of varying degrees in what they cover, talk about PWI. And what annoys me personally the most is when, if you're going to bring it up and you just simply go, make your own list, and then they just kind of list off the top 10 and then just have no discernible thoughts over it, I just kind of roll my eyes and go, okay, that's not what I'm looking for to be entertained by this. I want discussion. Mm-hmm. I want, I guess, happiness, anger. I want people to show emotions on this thing. Let's do this. I'm excited. We'll get to AEW and how I saw MJF and Omega kick each other's ass at a casino later. We'll talk about New Japan a little bit later. So PWI. A few episodes ago, as we ramped up to predict this thing, I had a bad feeling this year that they weren't going to even try to make sense of things, right? It was just going to be kind of a popularity contest, more so than what they've more or less, I guess, attempted to do since the pandemic, of really trying their best to exemplify a lot of unknown regions and wrestlers, namely Joshi wrestlers, which didn't start hitting the list until about 2020. And that's has 100% to do with the rise of Stardom and a lot of online talk about it. Then there's been kind of an indie, I can't say boom, but definitely a notoriety in the sense that because of AEW's existence and another women's division, like their presentation and booking aside, it does involve getting more women notable onto a list such as PWI. So now we cut to 2023. We're a number of years into this thing. I feel like they've done their... my vibe check with PWI was they feel like maybe they've done their quote-unquote due diligence in getting people noticed on the list. And to them, that's kind of good enough, right? That's the point of them. That's why every year, all of a sudden, they've went from 50 to now we go to this year and there's 250. To me, like PWI 500 for the men, I honestly don't care about what the number ends up being of how many people you throw on a list. To me, it's how much time and effort you put into making it. And there could be, I mean, if they still did a top 50 for the women, I'd still probably be okay with that, because then that allows you to put a lot of deep thought and deliberation into those 50. You know, it makes the list seem more prestigious. Because once you get to over X amount of names, no matter who you are, you're going to start to kind of burn yourself out about kind of caring who is where and when. And that's also why it's like, okay, let's just talk about the top 20. Let's break that down, because that's clearly the most important. Because once you go back that, you're just going to drive yourself insane going, this person should be 75 instead of 50. And you're like, whatever. So I put it out on Twitter. I put it out on Instagram. I didn't TikTok anything. I have been trying to attempt the TikTok, Rickee. So getting hip with the kids, right? As I drink more rum.
I have never been on TikTok.
Oh my god, I love
Too old.
threatening people that I'm gonna put it on TikTok, and it's like the worst joke imaginable. I just go, oh, you're gonna bowl like that, are you? I'm gonna post it on TikTok, and they no, don't put it there. Like it's an actual threat.
I get my TikToks like a boomer. Get them after they've been through Instagram and Facebook, and that's where I see them.
You get a delayed Vine of sorts.
Because I'm almost 40 and I don't have time for your newfangled application on your mobile device.
Okay. So we both rightly predicted Rhea Ripley was probably going to be number 1. She is number 1.
Okay.
Mommy herself in the catchphrase. You said Julia 2. So you were 1 and 2 back to back, Rickee. Congratulations there. I wasn't so sure that they were going to put Joshi as high this year. That's why I had Julia at 5. Mm-hmm. But let's go through this. We both had Lynch high. You had Lynch 3. I had Lynch 2. We'll get to Becky Lynch.
Where did she end up?
Becky Lynch ended up at 29.
Ooh, okay.
Which gave me a lot of questions. Bianca Belair, 3. You had her at 5. She was 3. And then I just went into, well, they got to have an Impact Wrestling person or an AEW person.
Yes.
I went Impact. Yes. You went AEW. You went Jade Cargill. I went Deonna Purrazzo. Number 4 ended up being Jamie Hayter. Purrazzo ended up being number 7. It's like, okay, at least I got the highest rated Impact person. And then once again, I had Julia 5. You had Bianca Belair 5. So, and the number 5 ended up being Tam Nakano. So they had 2 Stardom wrestlers, Joshi, in the top 5, which surprised me based on, like, I think they absolutely deserve to be and earned a top 5 spot. It's just, I was surprised PWI still went with that. So we weren't far off in their mindset thinking, and, you know, just based on my conversations with a few other people where it's like, okay, you put out a top 10, you're going to get the list of, okay, you got to have, it's kind of like the men, right? You got to have a couple Impact people, a couple AEW people, some random, like, luchador. In the men's case, it was Vikingo. In this case, this year, it was Camille, even though it's NWA, but what are you going to do in Mexico, right?
Right.
And then the other AEW person was Athena at 6. And I remember our conversation about Athena. We weren't sure where she was going to lie because of, well, it's Ring of Honor. Like, what does that...
Exposure and lack thereof,
Exposure, lack thereof. She's never on TV. Okay, she's been having matches, occasionally, like, pretty damn good. Yes, she's been one of the stronger women's wrestlers this year, along with Emi Sakura. I think they're a 1-2 punch of kind of a work rate, but in our minds of how PWI thought, we're like, well, is she actually going to be up there? And there was a lot of podcasts. The majority of the ones were pretty upset that Athena or Julian Tam didn't get kind of the top 3 representation. Take your pick over 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That was kind of the consensus. People that weren't familiar with Stardom, they kind of blew that off, and I was like, okay, I understand. You don't know. Those people were very much of Athena support, right? Which I found interesting. And there was a lot of statistics and talking points about it where this is a brand that has essentially been focused on a woman doing good matches and her own storylines, TV exposure or not, and just based on that, along with she's a woman of color, that was for their podcast. They're way more well spoken in that sense than I could ever be. So I'll shout out them with that. And I heard them out, and I'm like, okay, I wasn't quite on the Athena a top 10 type person this year because of just Ring of Honor, and I'm a firm believer in kind of the tier rankings of these promotions at this point. If you're gonna have WWE 1, then you got to have like certain criteria for WWE women's wrestlers to reach that point. And boy, was this year very much clear of that. But after listening to people that actually discuss this, I kind of bought into the Athena as they were number one. I was like, I'd be willing to go at least top 3 or 4 with Athena at that point in time.
So I think the thing about Athena is she is single-handedly supporting the Ring of Honor paywall.
Mm-hmm.
She is the only Ring of Honor champion that regularly appears on Honor Club. Eddie Kingston has not been on Ring of Honor yet. The Young Bucks and Hangman Page are the 6-man champions. They have not been on Ring of Honor yet.
Samoa Joe's television
MJF
champion.
and Adam Cole are the tag champs.
Yeah. No, I see your point. Exactly. If you're trying to sell something.
If anyone is still subscribed to Honor Club, it is for Athena. She is carrying it on her back.
Yeah. So when it comes to what Athena has meant, booking like practices aside and keeping her off AEW when she's the only champion, I'll tell you, I've been making Tony Khan hates women jokes like constantly lately. It's quite funny. I entertain myself with them. I'd be like, yeah, it's just in a random conversation with an AEW fan, and I'll just go, funny how Athena, the only Ring of Honor champion that's not regularly presented on AEW television, is a woman. Mm-hmm. Tony Khan hates women. I'll just throw that at the end of every like random conversation about it. It just always comes back to that.
I mean, obviously, I don't think in reality he hates women or is a misogynist, but
it makes my joke funny.
Definitely doesn't care about women's wrestling.
Right.
Definitely doesn't care about women's wrestling.
Yeah. So, just breaking down kind of the kayfabe aspect of kind of what's wrong with this top 10 in general is, okay, so Julia and Tam Nakano, both red belt champions. Tam Nakano, during this evaluation period, was a double champion. Only the second time in company history. It's probably the most prestigious women's title out there in terms of at least work rate and a consistent booking. Look, it's an all women's promotion. They're always going to be featured, right? That should count for a lot, especially in a 2023 era. Julia, 5-star winner, also was World of Stardom champion, won it at one of the biggest shows in women's, like, it's what, the second biggest show in the last 25 years for a woman. And then Bianca Belair, she's a perennial top 10 finisher these days. Let me pull up actually her cage match during this evaluation period, because I like Bianca Belair a lot. I think in terms of like work rate and opportunities to kind of showcase. Look, she didn't have her big WrestleMania match this year, right? However, she was, she was women's champion from, it's weird. It says August to August. That's strange. Did she just win the title tonight? No, that's not right.
I don't know. Tell me. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. April 2022 to May 2023. So she had this title for a good chunk of the eval period. So I understand, right? Oh, you know what? I think that was Money in the Bank. Yeah. She won a triple threat and then immediately lost it. That's what I'm looking at here. Okay. Okay. So, and then she re-wins the title in August and loses to Io Shirai. Okay. I got no problem with Bianca Belair because she had the title for a while. She put in good matches to what was given her. Top 10 finish, no issue there. 3, we've kind of gone over that. Maybe on a year like this and how WWE has kind of booked their women's division, pretty similar to AEW in a lot of ways when you break it down. Obviously not on the one match show minimum basis, but anyways, that's a conversation for another day. So then we get to Rhea Ripley and Jamie Hayter. I'm throwing both these people under the bus here. Okay?
Okay.
Jamie Hayter's been out effectively since February. Okay?
Of 23.
Oh, yeah. And that's a good chunk of
Okay.
the eval period. The eval period
It's
is
almost 6 months.
uh,
The
more than
eval
that.
period.
7 months. It's,
March, April.
September to September is what we're looking at.
I thought you said it was. Oh. September to September? Sorry, I misheard what you said the evaluation period was.
It's September to
wow.
September.
Yeah.
So, in context, Jamie Hayter, let me look up when she won this thing. Because, to me, she had, 2 good matches? She had, 3? 3? She has been out since May.
You look up the title reign. I will look up the matches.
Okay. Well, I know off the top of my head, she had the great match against Shida, which got a lot of recognition. Then she had the Rampage match against Emi Sakura, which also got recognition. She technically held this title for 190 days. Okay? She had an okay match against Riho. She had an abysmal match against Ruby Soho and Saraya in a 3-way.
Mm-hmm.
She won it at Full Gear in November against Toni Storm. Let me just loosely see what people thought that match
At
was.
November 19th.
Okay.
It is listed as it got 3.5 from Dave Meltzer, 7.83 on Cage Match.
Okay, so good match. 3 real defenses. I am not counting that Double or Nothing match, which was an abomination, 3 minutes, nothing. We discussed that on the podcast. That was like an embarrassment of how they came to that decision to do that. But if you look at Jamie Hayter's kind of repertoire from February up until that time, she was clearly injured and couldn't go. Right?
She did have a good match against Emi Sakura as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that one. That was a January Rampage match. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. So Toni Storm, Shida, Emi, and Riho were the highlights.
Right. At best, we're looking at, during this evaluation period, Jamie Hayter has had 17 matches, 18, if you're being generous.
Yeah.
Not a big repertoire. Very few good matches in there. The title reign, as far as I'm concerned, ended in February because of just her injury. And look, she had four matches between February and the time she lost to Toni Storm. It's simply not enough. And especially during when she's out half the year effectively in this evaluation period, she shouldn't be sniffing a top 10. I'm sorry. It's just not how this is supposed to work. You can give her a lot of credit while she had that title.
Yes.
But when you miss half the year, you're not winning MVPs. You're not in contention when you miss half a season. You know?
Right. Yep. Yeah. That's weird. Weird decision. But, PWI, so.
Where would you put Jamie Hayter on a top list like this? Like, just top of your head, like thinking it's like, okay, what is the maximum number you'd be willing to put her? AEW's second biggest promotion in the world. She clearly had a lot of fan support. She has, at least a few well-respected matches that got high ratings. So that's quality competition, which is a criteria in PWI.
I'm looking.
What's the max?
It looks like I want to say like 30.
So you're saying the max is 30. Okay. I was thinking like a 20-25 range personally. Because
I'm just looking at the other names that they have in the top 30, and I'm not sure she had a better evaluation period than the folks that are there.
I mean, I could point out quite a few probably, because I think the top 20 is a mess with what they did this year.
Let's get into it.
So Rhea Ripley, number 1. We've discussed Jamie Hayter. We both agree, like, nowhere near the top 10 is kind of the point to that conversation. Right. Rhea Ripley is fascinating because I listened to multiple people from PWI that were involved in voting go on to other podcasts, and without like directly quoting them, they said that Rhea Ripley was essentially chosen because of her social media presence, hashtags, mommy, right? And 2 matches. 2. Okay? One of them's the Charlotte Flair match at Mania, and they hold a Mania win and a good match in a lot of regard. And I go, okay. Biggest show of the year, biggest wrestling thing, etc., etc.
Yeah.
This is the first time it's not a main event. You know, it's not a Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair type match, right?
Yeah.
Not a main event of the night. It went on second to last, I believe. Yes, it tore the house down. Look, I love that match a lot. Then her second big match was a Royal Rumble win, very much in the vein of a WWE kayfabe, where it's like you start number 1, which many people have done at this point, and she wins, etc., etc. I'm like, okay. So you have your 2 big moments. There's a key word there. Then, in between all that, she is a manager for Judgment Day, a predominant male promotion that was not over until they got in with their Bloodline storyline, which is very much over in the company. Now Judgment Day is a featured act. She hardly wrestles. When she does wrestle, it's a lot of squash matches, so quality of competition's down. This is very much like a Jade Cargill resume going here without just being a part of some male act. Jade Cargill was number 14, by the way. So she dropped heavily for what reason? She was, top 5 last year or something? Because of just kayfabe of her not losing? Yeah. So I figured she dropped because she was out for, 4 months between contract type stuff and then putting over Statlander.
Oh, yeah.
But I got no problem with Jade Cargill's position, actually, at 14. I think that's a pretty decent spot with her in a kayfabe sense in AEW and what she put in. In fact, I think that's a pretty fair place for Jade Cargill. So Rhea Ripley, according to PWI, in this kind of year, social media and just representation on a television show was enough. In one match, I'm not counting a Royal Rumble, because that's just a kayfabe Battle Royal victory. To WWE, that's great. Yeah. To a grander scheme, it's like, if AEW does the Casino Royale, right, and someone wins that, do we hold that in the same regard as like a Royal Rumble? Even though it's the same kind of match?
No.
So what makes the Royal Rumble so different?
I don't know.
Right. Yeah. The Rhea Ripley one thing was kind of insulting to me, like taking their list into like any sort of serious contention with how they've done the last few years in just trying to make things more known and better and try to adhere to criteria. To me, they just kind of blew the criteria out of the water this year.
Yeah. Is social media presence a criterion?
It is not.
For voting?
It is not.
But they all said that was a large reason why she was number 1.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly why. Brilliant. I love it. So the only people we haven't talked about now is kind of the more, I guess, the bottom half of the top 10. It's Purrazzo, Willow Nightingale at 8, Camille at 9, and Jordan Grace at 10. Okay?
Yep.
So tell me about these people and your thoughts as I pull up everyone's cage match simultaneously.
I did not watch a lot of Impact this year. I can't really speak to Deonna and Jordan. I didn't think Jordan did a whole lot of wrestling this year, so that one surprises me. Deonna one match that I saw was the Deanna Julia Giselle Shaw match, which was very good. But I didn't see her versus Trinity, or I don't even know any other matches she had this year, so I can't speak to those. Nor can I speak to Camille. She's what, MLW? NWA? Where is she?
She is NWA.
Yeah, I mean, that means nothing to me. I don't even, how do you watch NWA? I don't even know.
YouTube, Fight TV subscription. They'll be soon on UPN, I guess. But I have a feeling, I've probably been told this or heard it, is Camille's contract's up and she might sign with another company.
Okay.
But anyways, like, Camille is NWA champion. Personally, I hold that company with no regard. It is such a non-factor. I treat it as the equivalent of an indie company that just has a higher budget because of Billy Corgan. Like, that's a true rep. And yes, she held that title for a long time. She had some decent matches that I enjoyed, very much more along the Plunder lines. But like, a top 10 finish for that kind of resume, it doesn't move me. Clearly PWI was like, okay, NWA means something to them this year when it didn't mean that much last year. I just don't know what the difference would be this year, just besides more time with a title against... To me, quality of competition just isn't there for the NWA either.
I don't know that many NWA talents. And I definitely stopped paying attention to any NWA news when they made Tyrus their champion. So,
oh, God, yeah. Definitely ruined the image of the company. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, so Camille to me, then, okay, I'll put it this way. If you want to put Camille in a top 2025 conversation, I'll listen to you. I'll hold that in similar regards as like a TJPW in Japan, another indie Joshi, even various other indie promotions with women's titles. I don't hold this NWA title more than, say, a CMLL women's title, or even the AAA women's title that I think is also booked like shit. Those companies are also way bigger, right? So now to the Impact wrestlers. We got, I got both Jordan Grace and Purrazzo's cage matches up for just kind of like belt marking references, because apparently holding the belt, or a belt, is numero uno very importante, right? To PWI, but only when it's convenient, apparently. So, Jordan Grace held the Knockouts title for 3 months during this evaluation period.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so she won it again. She had let's see, 6 defenses during that time, but this is also a show on television and run pay-per-views and kind of things. She faced, let's see, during the evaluation period, she only had 3 defenses. So one was Giselle Shaw on TV, 11 minutes. That's kind of like not much. Last man standing match against Masha, which I did watch. I believe that got quite a bit of praise as well, if memory serves. Let me double check this. Yeah, I mean, it got essentially 4 stars from cage match votes. I wasn't quite there, but I was like, okay, that was good. That's one match. There's another Tasha Steelz match that nobody watched. It's a street fight. And then there's the Mickie James match that got people talking, but it just wasn't like all that great to me. It was at Hard to Kill in January, and then after that, to me, Jordan Grace has been kind of persona non grata. Okay, she hasn't done much for the remainder of the year. This is another case where I kind of put this level as like a 20 to 30 range, right? To me, it's just not much of a resume across the whole year to justify a top 10 type finish. To me, the top 10 are people that have consistently delivered for the promotion at a high level across the majority of the evaluation period. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
With you.
So, Deonna Purrazzo, on the other hand, I kind of don't have an issue with her in the top 10. Maybe I'd have her lower, maybe higher. It would require a lot more thought. But for now, 7, we'll just kind of go with, okay, that's fine, because she's held the Knockouts title. She held it for a few months. She's been very frequented on television for quite some time. Maybe I'm holding her in a little bit higher regard than I should to at this point in time. But when I start looking at a lot of other women on the list this year, it kind of tells me that, and I've been thinking about this, is this 2022-2023 eval period showed a lot of weakness in women's wrestling across the year. And that was a big talking point I had myself at the back end of last year and throughout a good chunk of this year as well. And this just kind of confirms it when I'm seeing Purrazzo against the kind of the same litany of people that Grace faced, minus Mickie James, and kind of making, to me, a little bit more of an impact, and that has a lot to do with the Trinity match that happened in July. I think that gave more credence and eyeballs to the promotion, which I think is more important when it was all said and done. Because Mickie James also vacated the title, which caused another title match with Purrazzo and Grace, and they faced each other, I think, a second time. I forget which pay-per-view that was, but Purrazzo is kind of the Impact rep in my mind.
Okay.
Okay. So that brings us to the rest of the list. I'm going to run down 11 through 20 here. Okay.
Go.
Oh, I didn't mention Willow Nightingale. What do you think of her at 8?
Oh, yeah.
Seems strange to me.
I mean, this was her breakout year for sure. She had the New Japan Strong belt, inaugural New Japan Women's champion.
She won the Owen Hart tournament.
Yeah.
But then she's done nothing but lose. So in a kayfabe sense, I don't think that's top 10, because Grace has lost a lot this year. That was another point I wanted to make. Willow Nightingale and Jordynne Grace, to me, have a similar resume. I just don't know what distinguishes that between those two. Like, I think Jade Cargill in kayfabe has a stronger case than them.
I don't know. I love Willow, so I'm gonna leave it alone.
Okay. So 11 through 20. Asuka, Toni Storm, Masha Slamovich, yet again. Jade Cargill, Roxanne Perez, 15. That's Roxy, formerly known as. 16 is Kairi. Absurd rating. 17, Miyu Yamashita. 18, Chris Statlander. 19, Mizuki, TJPW champion throughout the majority of the year. 20 is Saya Kamitani. Then we'll get to kind of the outside looking in. Saya Kamitani at 20 is asinine to me.
I don't know that name.
So she was the Wonder of Stardom champion throughout the majority of the eval period, at least half. Held the title for essentially the whole time in the last eval period, in the previous one, in which she was a top 10 finisher. And then she was heavily in storylines in a cage match. Lots of good matches and defenses. She got injured in the Grand Prix at the very end of the eval period. So from the front half of this eval period, she was a top 10 person. Okay? To me, it's a much stronger case, kayfabe-wise, win-loss record, all these things taken into account, in what they've established as a prestigious title. Maybe I'm a little biased with how I view Stardom wrestlers, but the quality of competition is just so much higher in Stardom compared to any other promotion. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And to me, Saya Kamatani is top 10. I don't think she's top 5. I think there are people with better cases above her, including a Bianca Belair in this case. But this is a case of, I think, PWI just straight up forgetting about kind of a first half of the year.
Yeah. But
So-
we knew this was going to be a mess. So
Oh yeah. Like, we got Miyu Yamashita above her. I think that's just absurd as well. Miyu Yamashita,
Mhm.
they're putting a lot with her because of the Eve title, and it's like, I'm sorry. Eve does not mean what you think it means. They've been around a while. It's the being Eve champion to me is not more. This is what I'm talking about. Tiers. We got to establish this. We got to, because Miyu Yamashita has no business being a top 20 when the best thing that she can say this eval period is she won the Eve title. That doesn't fly with me. Kairi at 16, and I know I'm picking on Joshi wrestlers right now. Don't worry, there's enough for Toni Storm and Masha. Kairi, her win-loss record was impeccable, admittedly, but the real only title she won, and according to PWI, tag titles and trios titles, does not have much to do with the singles PWI, which is convenient to them only when it matters. Look, Kairi had a 5-minute match at the Tokyo Dome, beating Tam Nakano, and then that was kind of it. That was it for her. She lost to Mercedes. And then what? This isn't top 20 to me. And especially with their low catalog of matches on top of it. I do not understand this.
Yeah, I don't. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. There's nothing.
Top of your head, what has Toni Storm done this year in this eval period?
She was champion at some point during this period, right?
Did she win it back? Let me double check. Toni Storm. Yeah, she beat Jamie Hayter in that abysmal match, and then she lost to Shida. But that was also during a time when the Outcasts were just horrendous on television.
Yeah.
So let me just get her title catalog, because that's kind of what we're going off here.
Well, she won the title at All Out 2022, September.
Right, that's not in the. That's not in the.
But you
eval
said it was
period.
September to September.
Let's see. Okay, so she had it for a couple
Keep changing
months.
what the eval. You
No,
keep changing what the eval period is.
Yeah, it's September. It's September.
Okay. So she had the title until
She had the interim title, and then
November.
she, quote unquote, officially won it. Remember?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that was a good run. Yeah, because she had the Deeb match, Shida, and then she lost to Hayter at Full Gear. Okay, so that's credit. And then she had the 66-day reign where it was really bad. Sky Blue, Willow, Taya Valkyrie. Oh, that one was terrible. And then the Shida match at Dynamite 200. So she had the title for a while. Maybe upon second thought, the Toni Storm one isn't as egregious as I originally thought. Maybe 12 is a good place for her.
Yep, but she didn't have another good match until
The Shida match.
So the Jamie Hayter match was good, and then she didn't have another good match until August when she faced Shida again.
Yeah, and then that kicked off the Timeless Tony type stuff.
Right.
Which she's been a gimmick ever since. I'd personally put Toni Storm a little lower I could definitely think of some names that would be above her, but I guess upon second thought, I don't have much of an issue with Toni Storm that high, but certainly not top 10. Masha Slamovich. Okay, so she was ranked pretty high on the men's list. If she's ranked high on the men's list and she's doing intergender, then I think we got to pick and choose here. We can't have both.
This is hard. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. All right. So Roxanne Perez, NXT champion. I mean, I guess I'd personally probably have Tiffany Stratton higher if I was to pick an NXT talent. Maybe that's just me. So now we got the people that kind of got snubbed out here. Okay. There's Shuri from Stardom, who Utami also very much champions during the eval period. Forgotten.
You're not even on the list?
Well, I mean, they're outside the top 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's see here. Shuri is 37. Utami is 40.
Oh.
Mirai is number 43.
Yeah,
also Wonder of
holy
Stardom
moly.
champion during the eval period. A good chunk of it, too. An absolute abysmal rating. Could not believe it. I'm not the biggest Trinity fan in the world, but she's 23.
Okay.
I think that's low for her. We got Taya Valkyrie at 26. To me, that's too high.
That's way too high.
Yeah, it's way too high.
And Stephanie Vacca is down at 54.
So, okay. So I asked this. There's a person that I asked a couple of people. There's a person that tracks the like kind of promotion rankings on this for PWI. Very much kind of into lists like me. God, I keep trying to pull it up.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. So then I kind of threw out, hey, what about Mexico? Like, where are they at? Right? And this is what we got. There's a total of like 6 people on this list. Okay? From the entire
Mexican
country
wrestlers?
of Mexico. Lady Flammer from AAA. She's the one that...
Yeah, she's 42. Sorry.
Yeah, she's 42. As my computer goes through a freezing moment there. As we're... into this thing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, Flammer is at 42. She is the one that beats Taya for the AAA title.
Okay.
And then the remainder of the... Well, okay. Then we got Stephanie Vacker at 54. I think that's way too, like, lower ranking. Reina
Great.
Isis at 55. Now, remember, there was the big hair versus... or mask versus mask match. I don't remember if that was in the eval period or not, but that was against Dario Cheetah, which actually got...
Okay.
universal praise. That was a huge match in Mexico. Dario Cheetah is 112. Hydra is 82. She's from AAA. And then Sexy Star 2 randomly at 221. So clearly, PWI has a huge gap to fill with Mexican talent.
Yep.
Which is why I am now talking about a lot of luchadoras on this very podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, this list is... I don't know.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we stand. The PWI rankings, look, if you want me to make a list, I have a list. I'll make it. But
Okay.
People like Shida, Becky Lynch, Mayu Iwatani, Suzu Suzuki, kind of in this group outside the top 25.
Mhm.
It's almost like they knew what they were doing and they were just going to shove all these kind of groups of people in here. Because Becky Lynch, we both had kind of pegged for a top 5. And there's good reason behind that. Because A, it's Becky Lynch.
Right.
Right?
Right.
4 Horsewoman trademark WWE itself. And
Yes.
look, her resume is extremely strong, title or not, with what she's done, including the NXT title, which she did at the back end of her run here. She was always competing for titles, very much in the same vein of Jordynne Grace. She won a title, put someone over strong, had good matches. She had good matches with veterans, some who were washed, aka Lita. Becky Lynch's resume, to me, was a top 10, as far as I'm concerned. Especially if we keep on what I've been saying about tier rankings and these promotions. She's been one of the top women's stars of the year. And as much as it, like,
That's why we
pains me
both
to-
put
Right.
her where we did. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm a women's wrestling fan at heart, believe it or not. And I do believe a lot in Becky Lynch and what she's kind of done and meant for the industry. And what she's done in the last year has, like, look, it's gotten to the point where I'm considering voting for her in the Observer Hall of Fame. Which, by the way, great plug time. Out on the podcast feed now is myself and the guys from One Nation Radio. We did almost 3 hours of audio discussing the Observer Hall of Fame and the ballots and the people on it. It's a tremendous conversation. We laugh. I sweat during it. We get to bury Roman Reigns. There's some jokes. Be told, let me tell you. And I go a long time about my thoughts on Becky Lynch for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of women's wrestling talk, a lot of CM Punk talk in controversy type fashion is morality votes. So yeah, look on the podcast feeds for the Hall of Fame audio there. It's also on the One Nation Radio feed. Sent that over to them. So there's a lot of places you can possibly listen it to. Always looking for feedback on it. It's definitely an episode that meant a lot to me. I thank those guys tremendously. I love them. Look, they put up with me for 3 hours, just like you, Rickee.
Yeah, we should all have a drink together and commiserate.
Great, right? Are we done burying PWI?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Long story short, it's hot garbage. All right, moving on.
Tell me about Lucha Libre and Laughs.
Oh yeah, okay. So
I'm going to sit back and
great
enjoy
show
my
this-
rum because I've done a lot of talking.
Yeah. So it was a great show this month. The main event was Heidi Howitzer defending her now what's the word? Undisputed title. They merged the men's and women's championships at Lucha Libre last show, 2 shows ago. Anyway, she's now the reigning undisputed
I like that
heavyweight
move.
champion. Yeah.
I really like that move
I mean,
for an indie promotion. I know I said I'd let you talk, but when I heard that, I go, okay, if you don't have enough talent to make a women's division, and if you want to put over your talent strong and make them equal to men, we can have an intergender conversation another day over what that kind of means exactly. But for an indie promotion, look, in indie fans, I've seen Beyond Wrestling. I've gone to those shows. You've been there. Intergender works in the context of presenting it the right way. And anytime you talk about Lucha Libre and Laughs, and when I see intergender on the indie scenes presented in this way, it always gets over. So I really do commend the move to make Heidi their local champion of champions.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I'm sure I've said it on the podcast before, but there is no pop I've ever experienced at a wrestling show that feels the way a Heidi Howitzer pop does at Lucha Libre and Laughs. She's not just over; she is just like I can't even describe it. The pop for Heidi at these shows is unreal.
I got a comparison for you.
Okay.
It's how Beyond Wrestling and New England got Chris Statlander over.
I mean,
And the pops for Statlander and how she was presented to be equal to men and fought them. It's very comparable to me in that sense.
Okay, you're not wrong in the sense, but because the venue is different, because it's a theater setting, it feels different. It is just this like bonkers experience. So she defended her title in the main event versus Emi Sakura and Leva Bates. It was super fun. Seeing Emi Sakura live, I mean, she also got a huge pop, of course. And she was there for the comedy stuff that Leva is great at, but she was also there for the wrestling spots. Fantastic main event. Other highlights on the show, there was an amazing high-flying Lucha three-way match featuring Fuego del Sol. It was his first visit to Lucha Libre and Laughs. And he defeated a local luchador named Delta Jr. and this up-and-coming high flyer named Logan. Logan is like 21 and is so promising. I'm going to keep my eye on him and see where he goes. But my match of the night at this particular show was Royce Isaacs versus Simon Gotch. Now, when we first started talking about Lucha and Libre Laughs, we talked about how, it's a mixed crowd. There's some wrestling fans. There's some people, who are there for the comedy. There's some people who are there just to kind of see what this is all about. I think the wrestling fans are starting to outnumber the rest of the crowd, and or the crowd as a whole has, I don't want to say the word matured, but grown to a point that the promoter and the wrestlers involved in this match are comfortable doing a long technical match in front of a party crowd. This match, I texted you, I think, from the show. I said, when this hits YouTube, go out of your way to watch this. This is a match worth watching. And I had this conversation with Royce Isaacs after the show. He's been wrestling at Lucha Libre and Laughs since its inception 10 years ago. And I said almost the exact same words I just spoke here, just how the audience has evolved to be able to appreciate a match of that quality. And he agreed. It's different and it's great. And it's not worse or better for it. I mean, I think it's better for it. Those of us who are there for the actual wrestling are getting great quality matches now. But it's still a party crowd, and it's still funny, and it's still loud, and it's still something that I'm so lucky to experience in my hometown, because it's a really special promotion. It was a great show. And I can't wait till next month. The show is going to be right before Thanksgiving. Love the talent that they've announced. Oh, the main event will be Heidi defending her title against Effie. I don't know that they've had a singles match in a very long time, if ever. Masha Slamovich is coming back. Royce Isaacs is coming back. And did he announce anything else? I'm not sure what else has been announced, but great show. So much fun, as always.
Okay, I guess I'll transition into the wrestling show I went to live.
Yeah.
And it kind of encapsulates. Been drinking, can you tell? Look, I went to Collision Live at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut to see MJF, Kenny Omega. It was the whole reason why I went.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go otherwise. When they announced that on Dynamite, officially, I immediately went to Google Maps. Okay, how far to Mohegan Sun? And I went, oh, an hour.
Okay. So when they announced Kenny, actually, maybe when they announced Mohegan Sun, I messaged you and are you still going? But I also Googled the distance. And they announced Kenny, and I was like, you should go. You should go. And you were like on the fence. And then they said it was versus MJF, and you're like, I'm like,
they made it a world title match, and I went, I'm in.
I know.
So the ticket was affordable. It is the most affordable AEW ticket I've ever bought, which kind of speaks to also how far the promotion has kind of fallen at this point in time.
How much was your ticket?
$30.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah. I had good seats. I had very good seats. And then I
saw your photo. Yeah.
And then I when Ring of Honor hit, everyone left, so I went down to the front row. I just walked in there.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I saw Athena and Mercedes Martinez have a fantastic match. It's one of the best women's matches I've seen live in recent memory, for sure. Athena really brought it. Mercedes was clearly motivated to do something. They do a spot in that match that I genuinely thought they're going to switch the title. And I had a heart palpitation because I just went, why would they do this on Ring of Honor television and not at like Final Battle? Because it was just done so well. They do it's a turnbuckle spot of sorts, and then they've been doing the storyline of Ring of Honor where Billy Starks isn't coming out. She was sent, and then they do another spot with Billy Starks involved, and it really, to me it was the perfect television type match, and it really gives, like, if they run that match back at Final Battle, I'm all in. I think that's the one they should. People are saying it should be Billy Starks. I don't think they should. I would much rather see a Mercedes Martinez rematch based on what they did on this what happened with this television match. It's that good, and I'd like to see them run it back. The Billy Starks thing. Look, Billy Starks is young. We're not putting Athena on TV. Milk it for all it's worth, right? So, got to see Jay White live against who do you face? AR Fox.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, AR Fox, Jay White, Connecticut, New England kind of vibe there. Seeing Jay White live, this is what is this? The third or fourth time I've seen him live at this point in time, and Jay White ropes me in. I always say this, like, I just do not find him boring or to the same effect a lot of others do. He just really clicks with me. His antics click with me, and oh my god, seeing people buy $40 card blades at the merch stand, just and by the way,
yeah,
I'm all over the place here, but again, been drinking.
The women's merch.
No. One merch stand in the entire place. One.
Well, you know what? You know why they do that, though.
No, I don't understand why they do that.
So the reason why they do it is because that way, like, it's not like you wait in line. And you're like, do you have this shirt in a large? And they're like, no, but they might have it at the other stand. And then you go to the other stand, and then they don't have it there either. And then it's because you stood in line twice. That's why.
No, I don't see
that's my guess. Way. I'm just assuming. That's my guess.
I don't think so. It's AEW just does not do their merch right. Period. I get, my theory is they just have the belief that everyone's just going to buy it online anyways, and it's better pricing. But look, when you go to shows, I'm a consumer. I want to get something at the fucking show.
I want to get something at the show, and I also don't want to pay for Pro Wrestling Tees shipping. That's why I buy stuff at shows.
Right, ends up being the same price anyways. So, I was making jokes about the women's merch too. I bought almost all the women's merch, Rickee. Almost all of it.
It was just, a couple enamel pins?
There was 2 pins and a decal.
Oh.
a Sheeta pin, a Britt Baker pin that doesn't even have her name on it.
What does it say if it doesn't have her name on it?
It's just like her symbol and everything.
Oh, like the dental thing?
Yeah. It's okay. I put them on my bowling bag with all my other like random wrestling stuff that's on
Okay.
it. It's fun. The Sheeta one's a cat. Is her cat. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the Statlander pin. And then I got another Bullet Club pin. So, by the way, when my mom was visiting, we watched AEW,
Mhm.
all the shows, and her impressions were, well, obviously she had to ask what's up with Cody. Is he still a loser? Which always amuses me. She asks where Riho is, and I go, she's just not wrestling anymore on television. He goes, oh, that's too bad, because she actually like wants to ironically see her and then make fun of her.
Rude.
She loves Statlander still, and the fact that she got to meet her and talk to her does
When was that?
resonate with her. That was when I took her to a Beyond Wrestling show and we just got super drunk. We've done that a few times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she loves Bullet Club Gold. Loves them.
Yeah.
She calls them Muppets, just like I do, which is really funny.
Yes. That's perfect.
Yeah. And she loves the whole Bang Bang Gang thing, and she loves the Bullet Club symbol and the Bang Bang Gang shirt. She doesn't like the
I love the Bang Bang Gang shirt. The one that has like the looks like a finger pointing gun. It says Bang Bang Gang.
No,
Right,
because
so it
that's
looks like
the
a
one that's
gun?
like just across. Anyways, she loves them.
Anyway.
And then we got to, and I was really waiting for this. You ready? When they got to the MJF and specifically Adam Cole stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like this, Rickee, as we're on video. I'm like this. I'm just watching in the corner, just going.
Yeah.
Okay. Just looking
Yep.
at her. And her eyes do the whole squinting thing, you know? It's like
Up.
it's like that what am I watching reaction. He goes, huh?
Yeah.
And then it's over. She doesn't say anything the whole time.
Okay.
Then it's over. This is the peanut butter segment, by the way.
Oh, that was the worst one.
And it's over. She sits back in her chair. And then she looks at me and goes, what in the WWE fuck was that?
Yeah. What the fuck did I just watch? Yeah.
She was so taken
yeah.
aback. And she's go, what happened? What the like, she wasn't a huge MJF fan in the first place.
Okay.
And then when she's hearing commentary explain MJF, and then she's seeing him like try to call him on the phone and shit and do all these things, she just goes, oh no. She couldn't believe it. She goes, what? She literally goes, where's my cowboy? Why isn't he like kicking their ass? And I go, look, Mom, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. They're into this now.
Yeah. I mean, oof.
AEW
Yeah.
did not pass the mom test on that one.
What was I gonna say?
And you know what's funny? She
Mom.
does still kind of keep up with the show.
She-
Yeah,
Oh.
she hasn't watched. I say that, but she hasn't really watched it since about July. So she's been out a number of months.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Just kind of like from she's the definition of a casual fan, right? People throw that kind of phrase and wordage, verbiage around. She just wants like action. That's it. She wants action. And AEW is not giving her action. She was like, okay. She saw, what was that match? It was Jay White Pentagon that started off. And she just goes,
Oh.
she goes, yes, she loves that. She loved Pentagon. She goes, oh yeah, spooky ghost guy. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And they're like slapping each other. And she's just going, ooh, ooh, ah. Loved it. Okay. AEW has its ups and downs lately. It's been kind of confirmed that they're booking kind of on a week-to-week basis. That aside, let's concentrate on MJF Kenny Omega. We talked a lot on this podcast today. Rickee, what'd you think of the match? And did they book it correctly?
Yes, they booked it correctly. It was damn near perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that Kenny Omega can do that he's so good that he does stuff. They're like, is that on purpose? Was that a mistake? Did he slip? Like he kept slipping off ropes or having to like reset his stance or I think that was all intentional. I think he's talked about how he needs to get back to the main event scene and be the old Kenny Omega, and I think the story he was telling is right now MJF is better than him and beat him clean because Kenny isn't who he had been.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I'm watching the match. We know his booking over the last number of months, losing to Takeshita twice, and his promos about it. And yeah, he is currently not at the level of the main eventers. And it's so good for a story for the guy. I love it.
Do you think him knocking one of his wings off, getting into the ring, was that a one-winged angel thing or was that an accident?
Of course it was a one-winged angel thing.
I don't know. Again, he's so good that I question it all.
That's why, no, he is a worker's worker. He is always into those kinds of details. I mean, shit, there's the Okada match. Okada's a different kind of worker, but he's a worker's worker as well, where Danielson's on the outside, broken orbital bone and all that. He's holding his arm. And there's Okada sauntering over him in the middle of the ring, mocking his like broken face and arm. And I'm just like, there we go. That's what I want about my pro wrestling. I don't need people to be friends. I want them to mock him, just be like, I kicked your ass, motherfucker. That's what I want. Okay, we can have friendship too, but not in the way it's presented now. But yeah, do I have reservations about this being booked in the sense of 3 days notice? They've been hinting at it for the past couple weeks. They were getting us hyped. They confirmed it. I'll give them a couple weeks. And I'm like, okay. Could they have done a better job in like building up Omega's longest reign and defense? I much prefer they went into the defense record instead of length of time, because MJF was going to break that too on this day, beating Omega.
He was going to have the defense. It?
Yeah. So beating Omega wasn't just days held; it was also defense record.
Oh yeah, I wish they had brought that up too.
Yeah, to me that's more important. But anyways, North American wrestling really likes its days held. If I give them the 2 weeks, which I do, I would have much rather, especially since MJF hasn't really defended the title that often since All In, that they should have had, like, okay, I'll put it this way. A 2020 AEW would have recognized he was approaching the record. Defense or days held. Yeah. And they would have been talking about it and promoting it for months. Okay? They would have teased it. MJF would have cut promos saying, I'm about to break this record in another couple months, not just 13 days, bitch. Right?
Okay.
I think that's where a lot of the criticism lies, and am I upset they booked this match at all? I'm not. It's a pay-per-view level match. They need television ratings. They need tickets sold, for sure, because this show, I think before the MJF Omega match, they had 2,500, 3,000 tickets sold. They ended up with 4,000. I'm one of those, extra 1,000 that bought.
Right.
Maybe if I would have shown up to the casino that morning instead of played 18 holes of golf, I would have gotten a comp ticket, but who knows? I would have had to been a high roller maybe as well, but look, for $30, who cares? The experience of the Mohegan Sun, by the way, vastly preferred over any show I've been to in Boston.
I've been to Mohegan Sun, but I've never been there for an event.
Fantastic.
Can you describe?
It's so
like how?
Well, the arena's nice. It's right there in the casino. Parking is a non-issue because that's been my main headache with driving to Boston and the surrounding areas.
Parking there is insane. Yeah.
I thought my car was going to be towed a couple times going to these shows in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Because garages were out because of COVID, and then there's just no personnel. You can't pay for things. This one garage it's such a pain in the ass. Lots are only open till 11:30, so it's well, I can't stay for Rampage or kind of thing. It's horrible experiences. Not to mention that it's another $20, $25 to park. And then it takes another hour to get out. It's a nightmare. Mohegan Sun, I got there at this is a whole fun experience. I got there a couple hours early, met up with a friend, Console Kev, retroGaming podcast. Shit, we've known each other a long time now. We had a few drinks, got to meet his wife finally for the first time. I threw $5 in a slot machine. I got to relax before the show, had no issue parking.
Yeah.
Don't have to pay the extra fucking half a ticket, full ticket in this case.
Right.
Arena's right there, walk right in, great seats. And then, show's over. I did a couple more things at the casino. Left for home. It was nice. If I would much rather go to a show at this point in Connecticut than I would Boston. Without question.
Fair enough.
And it's actually the same distance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the experience of going to that, and it's a cool place to hold a wrestling show too.
Oh.
Yeah. So MJF Omega on 3 days' notice, they got their tickets. Could they have done it better? I think so. Did they do a good job and did it deliver? I think so as well. I think it can. As for the match, I got no problem with MJF winning. Would I have loved to see a title change? Absolutely. Of course I would.
Sure.
Omega fan. But the way they went about it, there was a visceral reaction, from me, where I kind of fell into it when Callis came out. And
I was so mad. I was like, how fucking WWE distraction babyface is this? Kenny's not stupid. I got real mad. Sorry.
Well, here's why I enjoyed it, because they've done this bullshit so much lately that when they placed it where Callis just comes out, Kenny Omega has just hit multiple V triggers. He's destroyed this man. It's his trademark finish to a match. He's obliterated MJF. He's setting him up for the one wing angel. No one kicks out of this motherfucking move because it's so awesome and it's protected and it means a lot. Callis immediately hits, distracts the ref, and he never gets that opportunity to hit MJF with the move again. And they go another 10 minutes. It's not the finish. All it does is prevent Kenny from immediately winning, and then they go on to have a match, and that's what ultimately cost him, but it's not directly related to MJF beating him. I love that so much more. And I fell for it. You got me into it. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah, that is the point.
That's the point.
Did you have fun? Did you have fun, JD?
I went for that match. It delivered. I had a blast. Okay? There's that table spot in the match where I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at it and I go, Omega's going through. It's always the cardinal rule. The guy who sets it up goes through.
Yep.
But the way he set it up, it was vertical instead of horizontal. And they do the delayed little power bomb. And I'm like, okay, MJF is going to go back in the ring and then they go forward again, and they just crash through it. I just went, oh my God, they went through.
Yeah. And they
Brutal
did.
looking, huge spots. I love that shit so much. This is why I watch wrestling. Like, that one match alone, like, was worth everything. The experience was great. The finish was fantastic with Omega getting his foot on the rope with the heat seeker. He didn't. I don't recall. Did they do an armbar near fall with the submission? I don't recall that.
Don't remember.
Yeah, because that wasn't really the match. Was just putting their bodies through this 30-minute affair, which was another great decision for, because that. Anyways, I had other thoughts, but I'll just stop at that. Look, Omega MJF really brought it. It made me feel like a wrestling fan through and through. That's why I watch this shit. That's why I love it. It meant a lot to me. No issue with MJF going over. I like the story that they're telling with Kenny Omega. This is what I want at AEW. This is what I want out of them. Even the Jay White match at the beginning of the show, I liked it with AR Fox. Got things over. MJF tries to steal the belt back. That's good. The middle portions of the show, I thought, needs a lot of work. Like, Dax Harwood, Ricky Starks, do not care. It didn't get over. The stories, I think, this tag title thing is dead. The Shida Abaddon match was abysmal. I felt like I was watching hack comedy out there. It was not good. The whole crowd only wanted pumpkins, and that was it. And no, they did not tease it. They went about their business. Look, the crowd chanted for Shida to jump off her broom, and then she brained herself on the mat. Like, Shida looking like Ada Wong from Resident Evil is cool.
That was cool. That was very cool. But yeah, Halloween, so they broke out Abaddon.
Oh my God. That's the second time I've seen this. I saw the bad Britt Baker Abaddon hardcore match, and now I've seen this one with Shida.
I mean, they should just let her have them. Sorry, Abaddon uses they, them pronouns. Maybe you should just let Abaddon have a match. It doesn't have to be this stupid gimmicky thing. They are the gimmick. Abaddon is the gimmick. They don't need...
Well, here's what was obvious to me. Abaddon has improved as a wrestler, gotten in shape, and yet...
that's what I'm saying.
And yet, Abaddon is still stuck doing this shtick, which doesn't need to be the case. And
that's my point.
If Abaddon continues doing this shtick to this degree, never break out. Just be on TV once a year at best.
And show up at Lucha Libre and laughs for a kick.
For a kick. Okay. Anything else over AEW? You pumped up for the build to Full Gear? Maybe not yet? Not feeling it? I guess it's just MJF Jay White right now. I think that's pretty good.
Yes, I'm excited. That match should be good. It'll be interesting to see what other matches fill up the card. Also, there is a New Year's Eve pay-per-view on Long Island, December 30th.
New Year's Evil.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I forget what the actual title of the show's called again. It's in conjunction with Final Battle. World's End?
Yes.
Okay. That's a terrible
which you and
anime.
I will have to discuss our...
Oh my God, yeah, because that will be during
weekend.
That will be during the Restival, won't it?
Yes.
Oh boy.
And I think I'm gonna have family stuff on the 30th.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think I'm going to be in I'm definitely not going to be in Worcester, and I'm 90% certain I won't be at Nassau Coliseum either. Even though I'll probably be in New Jersey.
Wrestling watch party? No, you'll be in Jersey.
Yeah, we can plan this. Talk about this separately, but
yeah, I mean, shit. I actually might be in Houston for Christmas this year. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not set in stone.
I'm
trying to figure out financially how that's going to work. So.
Sure.
All right, let's just blast through New Japan Strong. So, Royal Quest 3. There's just no drops.
Crap.
Yeah.
You still have shit to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, we can blast through this because I'm not watching Junior Tag League. I've seen a couple matches. I'm just not like into New Japan right now.
Yeah.
I'm way more into CMLL. That's just what's hitting with me currently. Right. But Takagi, Ishii, Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr. was fucking awesome. It's just a lot of the New Japan undercard just doesn't do shit for me. I'm like I'm in this perpetual waiting for the young guys to finally hit their stride. You know, when I see Yota Tsuji out there, I'm like, I'm excited. I'm into it. I watch everything he does. There was the match against him, against Luke Jacobs, that went like 10 minutes early on the show, and I'm like, that's what I fucking want to see. I want to see new talent rise up to the occasion and challenge the last generation. I want to see Shingo Takagi against Yota Tsuji, Red Narita, all these guys. I want to see them throw bombs. I understand that it's the UK, and I'm watching Takagi Ishii for the 6th time have a fucking 4.5-star match, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Give me something new. I'm begging New Japan to give me something fucking new. How many times do I have to see Ospreay and Sabre fight for the same thing over and over again? Yes, it was fucking awesome. I know it was great,
fabulous.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like a weird thing. It's like, god damn it, it was so good.
I'm very confused now.
That's my thoughts on that show.
Yeah, I think so I watched it live and you watched it later, and I think I told you the show was largely enjoyable, but watch the last 2 matches.
I end up watching the whole thing, and when I'm seeing the thing is, like, everything in between those matches I just said, so we got like the Kingston match, the LIJ match, the Ren Narita match, God doing things with El Phantasmo. El Phantasmo, I don't know what they're doing with this guy, and I just don't like it. Him with the Tongans and Hikuleo and all that, like, I don't get it. All of that's like a 2.5-star affair. I'm like, okay, it's like fine, but kind of fall asleep. And then, ironically, I'm way more into New Japan Strong than I am New Japan proper. Because I still get the same guys. Kingston, Shingo, Ishii, like, anything outside of Japan is kind of the same formatted shows, but when it comes to America, and let me see here. So, Royal Quest got, I think it's 3,100 people, 3,200? 3191 at Copperbox, while New Japan Strong in Vegas got 801, a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah,
right. And to me, it was a more stacked card of interest. We had Julia Hyen, which was fine. Did you watch any of this, by the way?
No, because I was preparing for my exam this morning.
You mentioned that.
If I hadn't had that exam this morning, I might have been in Vegas. It's a short drive. It's an even shorter flight. And it's very cheap for me to get there. And I considered it until I realized what weekend it was.
Yeah. Damn those tests. Damn responsibilities. Damn you.
Damn me trying to improve my advance in my career.
Yeah. Don't you hate that?
I kind of do. It's really annoying trying to get better at something that I hate. Oh.
Look, man, I got a geology degree, engineering, and I'm working with like firearms and shit in a chemical factory. Like, I was like, how'd I get here?
Good question.
Okay. I would say from a card perspective, bottom to top, I liked the Strong Vegas show more than Royal Quest. But Royal Quest, certainly without question, peaked higher. With Shingo Ishii and Ospreay, like Zach, I'm not disputing that claim at all. But when the undercard, I got... So here we go. Kojima defeats Coughlin, Rosser, and Cobb in a 4-way to start off the show. Number 1 contender match. I was like, okay, we got stakes. Bang. All I asked for. We have the CMLL offer match, which it's Vacker and Zeuxis against Johnny Robbie and Juvia, 740. I was like, I was into it. I don't think it's like the best CMLL match I've ever seen, but they went out there for a 7-minute match and they did it. So I was like, okay, 1 out of 3 rec type thing. That's fine. Vacker challenged Mayu Iwatani after the match in both Spanish and English.
Okay.
And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Okay.
They got a match for Texas going, and it's like, man. Of course, all the interesting things go to Texas when I no longer live there. But anyways, Gabe Kidd defeats Lawler. Another CML offer match with Atlantis and Tanahashi and Mystico against the Rocky Romero squad. Mentioned Julia against Hyon. Another kind of 1 out of 3 match. I don't know. People were really high on Hyon. And I don't know. I think she's like the weakest of the quote-unquote top Texas women indie prospects. I've never really bought into her.
I haven't seen enough of her body of work to make an assessment.
Yeah.
So,
Kingston against Hanare. He retains the strong openweight title. Just 5 guys in LIJ. This is like a Naito Sonata preview match for the Dome. 20-minute draw. I don't know. I like draws. I like draws in wrestling, especially when they build shit up. So I didn't have a problem with this. I thought it was cool. And then Shingo against Tamatanga. Look, I can't get into Tamatanga matches. They did the title change. I thought it was cool. 1 out of 3, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. It's a 27-minute Tamatanga match. I'm like, I'm kind of bored half the time. You know? Shingo's a Hall of Fame, like, in-ring talent. There's always that going for him. So what's your... What long-winded saying... Sorry, I broke up there. Long-winded saying in asking, what is your feeling on New Japan at this back half of the year heading to the Dome?
So I haven't been able to devote a lot of my time to anything outside of AEW. But we're in a better position than we once were, where we were like, what is even the point of watching New Japan? Why are we still even bothering?
Mm-hmm.
The crowds obviously are helping a whole lot. Of course, these shows were in the West, but I don't know. I don't know what they're building to. I don't know what the big matches are going to be at the Dome.
A lot's in question, for sure. We know it's Sonata Naito. Is that like enough for you right now?
I'm intrigued.
I think Naito's going to win the title. That's what I think.
I think so too. I'm really sad that Danielson broke his orbital bone and won't have a Wrestle Kingdom match.
Look, Okada's got that 4-for-4 hit rate on White Boys.
Yo! Speaking of hit rates, Denver Broncos are 2-0 since their partnership with CMLL.
Oh yeah, I did see that joking stat. That's really funny. Yeah, they even beat the Chiefs. That's I'm not even a football fan. I find that heavily amusing. Yeah,
it's pretty great. I think Lucha Blog posted something about it. It was really funny.
It's super funny. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of Western fans are really down on Sonata just in general, but our negativity it's clearly not. I don't think it's translating to the Japanese culture and audience. I think at worst, the New Japan fans in Japan are very kind of indifferent on Sonata, and that's an at worst scenario. So, from what I can tell, the Dome tickets are selling pretty damn well for this Sonata Naito match, so clearly there's still a lot of LAJ interest there in just that faction. Does that have a lot to do with Naito? Well, absolutely, it's Naito, but it takes two to tango, right? So there is something to Sonata. To me, he's played out his role. You know, we wanted, we as fans wanted to see what it would be like for Sonata as champion. I think he's done fine. You know, when we look back on this, is he the ideal champion of what you envision a champion to be? No, not at all. Because every defense, we've kind of rooted for him to lose. The crowds always seem to root for the other guy, Hiromu, Yota Tsuji. List goes on. Well, the evil match was shitty, but we'll ignore that one.
Is this kind of what we predicted when he won the belt, though?
Yeah, and if the end result is a good Dome show with a Naito main event, Naito gets his ultimate story ending. I can't call the Sonata run a failure by any means. It definitely leaves a lot to be desired from like a buzz factor and all of these other words you could use. But I think it's been ultimately pretty okay. As much as I just do not care for the run at all and Sonata himself.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'm out of rum. We buried PWI.
Why is the rum gone?
Why is the rum gone? Oh my god. Well, that is a clear sign for us. No, we have to discuss WCW.
I didn't watch it. I told you I didn't watch it.
That means I get to record it tomorrow.
Do you want me to listen to you talk about it?
I can run through this fucker in 10 minutes or less.
It's up to you.
No, I can do
still
this.
be a part of the conversation.
No. This is great. Okay, I'm going to play the drop and fucking run through it as quick as I can because it's
better,
so
I'm
so
ready for
bad.
bed. Let's go.
It's so bad. All right. I got to get this drop up. How could we talk about WCW without getting the drop up? Okay, here we go. Yeah, you said you didn't watch it. Good on you. I wish I could say that. Here we go. Rickee, the rum is not gone. I'm pouring myself a splash.
Good job.
Because we're talking WCW. Okay, so get a load of this fucking show. So we're 6 days away from Super Brawl.
Oh,
it's
no.
It's the go-home show.
Oh, so that's what we're watching for next podcast is Super Brawl?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, painful. So, Sid Vicious is champion, as much as the NWO does not want it to be. Hulk Hogan is showing up on Thunder for the last 2 or 3 weeks, or whatever it's been, to try to get Thunder ratings up. That's the idea behind Ferrara and Russo and all these guys. Okay?
Okay.
They're doing the Commissioner storyline, but yet the Commissioner doesn't have the full power because there's also the committee of WCW. So we got Nash in power because he won it from Terry Funk, but then he's not there because he broke his ankle. So then Jeff Jarrett has power, and then they have a power struggle. Okay, this is all within the last fucking couple weeks. So, they have like 10 minutes of recap to start this thing. Asinine. Where now they've all of a sudden pushed Ric Flair against Hulk Hogan for Nitro.
Okay. For Nitro, okay.
Yeah, and they're in New York City, by the way, at Nassau Coliseum, ironically enough. What we just talked about.
The parallels are uncanny.
Yeah, they're pushing Hulk Hogan against Ric Flair on 3 days' notice. Very Omega MJF of them.
Didn't even talk about Ric Flair showing up in AEW.
Oh, we didn't. Who cares? All right. Well, all right. Do you have any thoughts? Doesn't matter. I made the joke on Twitter, he's uncancelable.
I don't understand why people are still excited to see him.
He's Ric Flair. He's one of the greatest stars in pro wrestling history. My issue is he's old as fuck and washed as fuck. Why are we bothering? But it's Sting. It's probably a favor to Sting. It's probably a gift to him. Anything else be damned. And when you watch Ric Flair on these shows, you're just like, yeah, okay, he's a goat for a reason.
Old then.
Right. They were making fun of him for being old then.
Yeah, I don't get it. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry. Go back to the show.
Like, when it comes to Ric Flair, it's always complicated with the guy because he's been essentially canceled since the 70s, okay? And yet, it doesn't matter. And this, like, dark side of the ring thing that social media is all up in arms about and people are up in arms about, I'm not saying you don't have to be offended by him. And you don't have to be insulted by his presence or anything. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, none of this is like new fucking news with this guy.
Right.
Like, the dark side of the ring thing was about things we knew from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, no one complained about him back in 2005 when he was in Evolution and all this shit. Right? Anyways. So, Ric Flair is back on this show, by the way, which he wasn't on. Hulk Hogan was gone. The last time we saw Hulk Hogan, he was in his little combat boots laying down on a pay-per-view for Sting, and everyone's booing him. Okay? And by the way, the audible fake crowd noise on these Nitro shows, I can't stand them.
It's bad?
Yeah. It's like someone's pulling a cord and you just hear like a rainstorm every 5 seconds. They're atrocious.
That's
so anyways,
terrible.
They plug Ric Flair versus Hogan mixed in with this random Terry Funk thing. I'm sorry. The Terry Funk thing is actually the thing they're aiming for, but now they're plugging the Hulk Hogan thing as the most important thing with the Lex Luger comments that he is throwing out Hulk Hogan's name out there. Hulk Hogan's insulted, but Sting is actually feuding with Sting, who's not there. Got all that?
Sting is feuding with Sting? Wait, what?
Lex Luger is feuding with Sting, but Sting's not there.
That makes more sense. Okay.
But Lex Luger, in random promos, has mentioned Hulk Hogan's name, even though Hulk Hogan's not there, but now he is.
Lex Luger was supposed to be the next Hulk Hogan at some point, right?
Yeah, in the early 90s. For WWF. Okay. Yeah,
Checking.
Lex Express, the Cody Express, that whole deal.
I don't know shit about fuck, so leave me alone. Keep going.
Shit about fuck, love it. Okay. So, obviously, we do a bunch of shitty nothing matches that mean nothing. They're all, like, barely minutes long. We have matches where, like, Brian Knobbs and Bam Bam Bigelow are hitting each other with shit. We have Norman Smiley out there in the latest I'm in this town sports gear against 3 Count. It's almost like the exact same show as last week. The only difference is now we have Jeff Jarrett and Hulk Hogan doing their things to build up a pay-per-view match. That's it. That's the only difference.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Oh,
Sid
we
is
did.
behind you. Oh, Sid. Hi, Sid.
Hi, kitty cat.
It needs attention.
Yeah. Oh, he looks tired. Look at him. Yeah.
Who else looks tired?
Yeah, you do. In your awesome AEW sweatshirt, by the way.
It's the best. I love it.
So Kevin Nash starts out the show, and this is just going to be 2 segments, and then we'll be out of here because the whole middle of the show is exactly what I described. There's a bad Vampiro match. There's a demon, Kiss Demon match against who do you fucking face? Who cares? It doesn't matter. So Jeff Jarrett says he's got all the stroke around here. He's the chosen one. He cuts the same fucking promo constantly. It's terrible. And he goes, "I'm the commissioner." Kevin Nash comes on the screen. Kevin Nash gets cut off because he's about to make like matches, and he's all insulted about the whole Scott Hall debacle from the previous week, about how Scott Hall could have won the title, even though for some reason they now tell me that it was a non-title match. So I'm sure they missed something.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So Kevin Nash goes, he already got this match approved. Tonight it's going to be Jeff Jarrett against Sid Vicious, non-title, so they can mess each other up before Super Bowl, because now it's a three-way. Scott Hall, Jeff Jarrett, and Sid Vicious in a three-way for the title. So the whole purpose of the match tonight is a soften-up match. Also, while they heavily promote Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan in a singles match. Got all that?
I'm with you.
Yeah. So NWO 2000 is feuding with the NWO, and then Hulk Hogan is feuding with Ric Flair. My God.
What year is this? 2000. Okay.
Yeah. It's 2000, and they literally only have two ideas in this company. It's terrible. So we got all the middle stuff. There's a Oklahoma segment in which he's pushing the women's division, which results in a Monster Ripper Rhonda Singh, in which they, I am not shitting you, plug All Japan Women.
What?
Yeah, they plug her as a killer, a legit champion of the sport. Tony Schiavone's going nuts over this woman. Meanwhile, Mark Madden is the worst commentator possibly I've ever heard. I'd rather hear drunk Bobby Heenan any day. While he is just heel commentator, he's making fun of women's weight and looks and all these things.
Oh, no.
And they're pumping the storyline that Oklahoma and Monster Ripper Rhonda Singh are an item. So Molly Holly's in the ring. She's Mona. They still put her out in a dress with bare feet because I don't know. I don't know why they do these things. They try to have a match. There's distraction. Medusa's the special guest referee. Rhonda wins, slaps a kiss on Oklahoma, and we move on with the shitty story. Lot of, let's call it, sexual like shit on the show as well. Alright, so we'll skip to the main two things here. Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair have a match straight out of like 1984. Or in WCW's case, it's 1994. We've seen all this before. Hulk Hogan powers up. Ric Flair's a heel. They're putting it off as some huge match on short notice. It might be their last match ever together. Blah, blah, blah. Hogan does the... Like, Ric Flair cheats. Hogan does the kick out at 2. He hulks up, hits a leg drop, and Lex Luger hits the ring for the DQ, and there's a brawl, and Lex Luger eventually comes back and crushes Hogan's hand with a chair. That's what they're doing there. Will this lead to Sting? I don't know. But they're building up Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan for Super Brawl, and now Hogan's going in injured. I guess this is pro wrestling, but with WCW, we've seen all this shit before 1,000 times. Who could possibly care at this point? And then, that's not the main event. The main event is Jeff Jarrett against Sid Vicious, and they kind of have a nothing match. It's a hodgepodge. It's just fucking interference. It ends with ref bumps and all kinds of shit. Jeff Jarrett pins Sid Vicious. They're like, oh, he's got 2 over on him. Build up for the 3-way. That's the show. It's a bad show.
This is the go home for the pay-per-view?
This is the go home for the pay-per-view. If you want to play the guessing game of matches, we could. I only got 2 for you. I got Sid Vicious in the 3-way against Jeff Jarrett and Scott Hall. For all we know, that could end up just Sid Vicious, Jeff Jarrett, and Scott Hall doesn't show up because it's WCW and it's 2000 at this point. And then we have Hulk Hogan against Lex Luger. And, actually, I got 3. Ric Flair against Terry Funk. There you go. Those are your 3.
Okay.
Everything else can be who the fuck cares.
That sounds like a mess. And I'm actually...
why do I remember this? but there's also, I think, Johnny the Bull. Again, no, I don't remember. I just remember that they want to have what was it? An Italian coffin match or some shit? They're like making up stipulations. Just randomly in the back for another match.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
That was WCW. You love it.
Sure do.
Did you miss watching it? You missed it.
I'm a little sad. No, I'm okay with it, and I will go into the review with that synopsis.
There you go. Super Brawl 2000. That'll be the next episode. Rickee, it's been fun. See you next time.
Later.